east, where the cloud and rain will still linger. It's a pretty slow-moving feature, this weather front, so it does take a while to move out of the far east. And a few showers on a brisk breeze will move into the far northwest. And for all of us, temperatures will widely be in single figures, so a cooler day, but definitely a drier one.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the greatest cash prize of the Great British Giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
Good afternoon, Britain. It is just approaching 12 o'clock on Monday, the 15th of December. I'm Nana Akua.
And I'm Cameron Walker.
And on the show today,
we'll have the latest from Sydney after yesterday's terror attack. 15 people have been killed and more than 40 others are in hospital after 2 gunmen opened fire in an anti-Semitic massacre.
According to Australian authorities, the youngest attack suspect was known to the intelligence services investigated for his close links to the security services back in to ISIS, I should say, back in 2019.
Police in the UK are stepping up security for Jewish communities in this country. Our reporter Will Godley is in North London.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, with that increased police presence in place, a further vigil is planned for tonight, honouring those who have died in this horrific attack, praying for those still recovering, and also calling for the government to do more to tackle anti-Semitism.
And it's a big day for Sir Keir Starmer. He's facing a grilling from MPs at the end of what's been a terrible year for the Prime Minister. And we'll be bringing you that live from 2 o'clock.
All right, well, Tory leader Kemi Badenoch joins us now.
Kemi, good afternoon to you. First of all, can we just get your reaction to the horrific attack that took place on Bondi Beach over the weekend, but also the fact that the chief rabbi of the UK is saying he's devastated but not surprised this happened due to the rise in anti-Semitism? Why are Western governments failing the Jewish community?
What happened at Bondi Beach was absolutely horrific, and my heart goes out to all of the victims, their families and friends. It was just disgusting to see, you know, some of those clips on social media. Absolutely horrific, and it's quite clear that the world, especially the West, is becoming less safe for Jewish people. I mean, look at what happened in Manchester. So the chief rabbi saying he's not surprised. I don't think any of us should be surprised. We have seen an escalation in anti-Semitism, and we need a very robust response.
And Kemi, you, over the weekend, wrote a very powerful column in the Telegraph about wanting net emission vehicle mandates to basically be removed, so we don't have to get rid of petrol and diesel cars. Why did you write that, and what are business leaders in the UK specifically telling you?
Well, they've been telling me for a long time, even when I was in government, that it wasn't going to work, that it was very hard for them to scale up that level of production, that there wasn't enough demand in the market. And what I'm saying is, let's have some common sense. I've always been skeptical that this net zero plan would work. It is not working. The problem we have is that Labour is now doubling down. I managed to get the deadline pushed to 2035. They've brought it forwards. If we want to have a good transition, if we want to tackle climate change, we have to do it in a common sense way, not just stick to a plan that isn't working. People can't afford the cars. The government is taxing people to subsidise the purchase of the cars. The only entity that is profiting from this is China.
Look, Kemi, this is very laudable, and I respect that. But this is something that I, as a normal person, could have seen. It was your government, when you guys were in power, that came up with the whole net zero thing under Theresa May. The 2050 deadline, that was set by your government. And there doesn't seem to be much resistance from you then at all, really.
Well, remember you said Theresa May. I'm not Theresa May. I'm Kemi Badenoch. I'm the leader of the Conservative Party now. And if you look at the day that that announcement to net zero by 2050 was made, I was speaking saying, how is this going to be achievable and affordable? When I was in government, I was the one pushing back. Things would have been a lot worse if I wasn't there. Now I'm in charge. We have done the work. We've done the research. It is not working. It is time to drop it. This is also because we can see Labour doubling, tripling down on this. It is not common sense. So what I'm asking people is to look at me, look at how consistent I've been. I'm not U-turning. I'm changing our party policy to something that makes sense. And a lot of people are supporting me, both in industry and in politics, and even in the media, because they know that this is the right thing. Even the EU is looking at pushing it back further, or maybe even dropping it. We're supposed to be competing. We left the EU so that we could be competing and doing better, not following them. It's time for us to start taking the lead and do what is right in the national interest.
Well, would you scrap it then? Would you scrap it altogether? America have decided that it is nonsense. Would you look to actually scrap it rather than just postponing it?
Scrap what
net zero.
specifically? The ZEV mandate? We have scrapped it.
Yeah.
Well, net zero, if people want to do it, that's fine. But government mandating it and forcing people, that's what we need to scrap. We can do better for the environment. We can tackle climate change, but we need to use sensible ways of doing it. You know, let the market decide. Let's invest in technology and innovation, but not what we're doing right now, which is putting legislation forcing people to behave in a way which we're not actually able to sustain. Like with heat pumps, where we're forcing heat pumps when we're actually not able to install them properly. We cannot pursue net zero by bankrupting our country. We're not going to be a global leader. No one will follow us. The UK has already done more than any Western economy in terms of delivering on climate change. We've cut our emissions very low, but we need to start thinking about our economy. We are getting poorer. So the Conservative Party is taking the common sense approach, which I've always pushed for many years. Let's tackle the environment, but do it in a way that makes sense, not by these legislative mandates that don't work and are actually chasing car manufacturing out of our country and deindustrialising the UK.
Kemi, in the latest budget, the government announced an extra £1.3 billion investment into the UK's electric car grant scheme to encourage drivers to make the switch to EV vehicles. And the government spokesperson, Department of Transport spokesperson, says that more drivers than ever are choosing electric. So is that accurate, do you think, or is that not what you are hearing?
That's not what the car manufacturers are saying. They're leaving. They're leaving the UK. When I was business secretary, I got investments from Stellantis, from Mini. Those investments have been paused under Labour. They're leaving. So who are we kidding? We need to stop kidding ourselves. Labour comes out and just says, oh yes, actually everybody really loves all the nonsense that we're doing. It's not true. Let's bring some common sense back, please.
All right, Kemi Badenoch, thank you very much. That's the Tory party leader joining us live.
Thank you. Well, the world is once again in a state of shock after another terror attack on Jewish people.
15 people, including a British-born rabbi, have died and 40 remain in hospital after 2 terrorist gunmen targeted a Jewish celebration at Bondi Beach in Sydney.
Well, we're joined now by GBNews' Home and Security Editor, Mark White, in the studio. Mark, what is the latest on this? Because we seem to be reporting on terror attacks in the Western world on the Jewish people again and again this year.
Yeah, well, the investigation is continuing apace, but it's clearly already at this early stage unearthing some uncomfortable questions for the Australian authorities, because it seems that one of the attackers, a 24-year-old Naveed Akram, the son of the older attacker, Sajid Akram, was known to the authorities. He'd been investigated by police and the Domestic Intelligence Service in Australia for his links to a terror cell in Sydney in 2019. And in fact, 2 members of that terrorist cell went on to be prosecuted and subsequently been jailed. You're looking at Naveed Akram there on that pedestrian bridge overlooking the park where the celebrations for Hanukkah were taking place when the attack took place. And in fact, his father, Sajid Akram, moved down at one point from that pedestrian bridge right down into that little parkland to go right up close to those people that were desperately trying to hide to avoid the bullets, to try to pick them off one by one. It was at that point that, of course, we saw the intervention from this heroic figure, Ahmed Ahmed, who incidentally has been visited by the New South Wales State Premier, Chris Minns, in hospital. He's visited him in hospital to thank him. You can see the post that he put out on X to pass on his thanks to this hero, telling him that what he did that day, that selfless act, undoubtedly saved lives because he managed to wrestle the shotgun away from Sajid Akram.
And it's extraordinary because a fundraiser has been launched for this hero bystander and it's reached more than $1 million Australian dollars. Incredible support for him across the country and indeed the world.
Yeah, and well, obviously the fact that he's speaking from his hospital bedside, you can see he was injured. He was shot a number of times in the shoulder. He's undergone surgery, which went well. But of course, any sort of injury to a limb, you're going to lose mobility for a while. So we don't know what his long-term prognosis is, but obviously people in Australia and wider afield are, inspired by his actions. Understandably, most people, when a terrorist atrocity like this takes place, run for their lives to hide and not get hurt. So when you see people that actually move in the opposite direction, members of the police do that, but this is an innocent member of the public deciding to have a go, to try to do what they could to stop the carnage that was unfolding.
And what do we know now in terms of the reaction from the Australian government? Have we heard much about what they intend to do? I know that one of the chief police said that there might be an announcement that's coming with regard to the gun laws.
Well, I mean, the thing about toughening the gun laws, they've already got in Australia very tough gun laws brought in after the massacre at Port Arthur in 1996. So the gun laws are there. I'm just not sure that the checks that were carried out were actually carried out in any meaningful way, because you've got the father of a man who was being investigated by the intelligence services for his links to an ISIS terror cell, a man who was clearly on the intelligence services radar, and his father was then allowed to continue keeping that gun licence that gave him access to 6 deadly firearms.
He had 6 guns, didn't he?
So, regardless of the gun laws that were out there, whatever those gun laws were, the checks, there didn't appear to be any sort of joined-up approach between those issuing or maintaining the gun licence for this individual and what was happening in terms of this person being on an intelligence watch list, or at the very least being on the intelligence services radar. Anthony Albanese, the Australian Prime Minister, has denied he was on a watch list, but really they're just dancing on the head of a pin there. He was clearly known to the intelligence services.
I mean, it's baffling that he legally held 6 very deadly, as Nana was saying, firearms. But has this raised wider issues now in Australia about radicalisation, about immigration, and indeed gun laws? This is clearly going to spark a lot of anger in Australia.
Well, I think just like here in the UK, those conversations have been going on for years in Australia, because they are more than aware of the way in which radicalisation has manifested itself. The Jewish community in particular have seen a huge surge in anti-Semitism, particularly since October 7th, 2023, and that deadly terrorist attack in Israel. We've seen a real surge of anti-Semitism in Australia. Hundreds of thousands that took to the streets in the days after that terrorist attack, chanting all kinds of hateful things outside the Sydney Opera House, and no prosecutions that ever came from that. And that just emboldened those with Jew hatred in their heart that have used the ongoing conflict in Gaza as an excuse to propagate, that continued hatred for the Jewish community. So, of course, there's great concern, and there's great concern about the threat from Islamist extremism in Australia, just like there is here and in many other European countries. Is what the government there is doing about it, and many people actually feel that the government of Australia is just not doing enough.
And just on the gunmen, we hear that there was an IS flag potentially in their car. And
2 IS flags recovered from the vehicle, along with a number of IEDs, fairly rudimentary, but nonetheless deadly explosive devices that were in that vehicle. We don't know exactly what the terrorists were planning had this not been brought to a conclusion, but more death and destruction is I think, the obvious inference to gather from that. But yes, 2 ISIS flags in there, cementing, obviously, the concerns of the links to Islamic State. And I should just say, on that part, the security services in Western countries in particular have been very, very concerned about the resurgence of ISIS and also Al-Qaeda, a name perhaps many people believe had been consigned to the past. But both these terrorist organisations are currently enjoying a resurgence. Their membership, those wanting to join these groups and commit atrocities on behalf of these groups, has been on the increase over the last couple of years. And, you know, it is a real concern, especially this time of the year as we build up to the Christmas period with Christmas markets and all of the above. We've seen a Christmas market plot in Germany just disrupted in the last few days.
It's just terrible. Well, listen, we can now speak to GBNews contributor Will Kingston. Will, I noticed you shaking your head when I was talking about gun laws in Australia being perhaps tightened, because I know last night during the press conference I actually stayed up late to watch it on the Late Show Live on GBNews. And one of the people speaking at that conference said that they were looking at the gun laws and there'll be an announcement later. How tight are the gun laws in Australia?
Tight enough is the short answer. First and foremost, my strength and love to the victims and the victims' families. I'm from Sydney. Before I moved to the United Kingdom, I lived 5 minutes from Bondi Beach. I walked across that bridge that you could see almost every day. So it is an immensely tragic event. On gun laws specifically, after the 1996 Port Arthur massacre, John Howard introduced some of the toughest gun laws in the world. Just like we've seen in the UK, politicians are creating fake solutions to very real problems. They are reflexively going for the low-hanging fruit of saying we're going to tighten gun laws. They are saying we're going to look at extremism on the internet, and they're going to look at further clamping down on social media. And all of this is to avoid the more difficult conversations around multiculturalism, around Islamism, and around mass migration, particularly from cultures that don't have compatible values to a Western liberal democracy like Australia or like the United Kingdom. So the gun laws point, or whatever gun laws regulations that come out of this, are a distraction. They are not an attempt to solve or to ensure something like this doesn't happen again.
And how worried are Australian citizens about all of these issues? Do you think potentially this attack could be a catalyst for a wider conversation about, as you say, multiculturalism, mass immigration?
How many times have we used this term tipping point, not just in Australia, but in the United Kingdom across the last decade, and yet politicians are still not listening? So it's a difficult question to answer, Cameron. I really hope so. I would say Mark's commentary's been excellent. I would slightly qualify one thing he said, in that I believe he said that there have been conversations around immigration and multiculturalism in Australia in recent years. There have, but not to the same extent as there has been in the UK. In fact, I would suggest that there is an there is a greater sensitivity around these conversations in Australia. It's probably where the UK was 5 years ago, but now I think the niceties have been done away with here and more honest conversations are taking place. I know, for example, like I do work with Sky News in Australia once every so often, and the things that I would say on GBNews, which I think are very reasonable, questioning the multicultural project, questioning the merits of diversity, looking at the impacts of Islamism. We have, and we talk about without fear or favour on this channel, on, say, channels in Australia, you will be met with more resistance. You will be reflexively called a racist in many instances, again, in ways that I think we saw much more in this country 5 years ago. So I hope this spurs actually more honest conversations in Australia, because at the moment, I don't think there has been a level of honesty surrounding the cultural compatibility of increasingly dispersed ethnic and cultural communities in the outer parts of Sydney and Melbourne.
But I thought that Australia was excellent with its immigration. You know, you've got very strong borders, tight controls, so you're very, very good at not allowing people in who aren't the right kind of people that you want in the country, or if they've got criminal records. So what's gone wrong? Because we're looking for tighter controls. We look to Australia saying, oh my God, they're so good at this. We want to emulate them, but yet you are also suffering problems that are similar.
Yeah, so we should distinguish between illegal immigration and legal immigration. Australia's illegal immigration policies are still excellent, and they are the model that the United Kingdom should follow, should lift and shift. On legal migration, and this may surprise many viewers in the United Kingdom, there have been more migrants come to Australia, hundreds of thousands more migrants come to Australia in the last 5 years than there have been to the United Kingdom. And we've had very, very difficult conversations around the impacts of mass migration in the United Kingdom. When you consider that the population of Australia is 27 million, the effect of that in terms of how it will feel to people in cities is far greater than the United Kingdom. Now, people can say that Australia is a really big country.
And it's actually built completely on migration, isn't it, really?
Yes, pretty much. But, you know, in terms of there's the practical side of immigration, in terms of how do you actually make sure that housing prices and there are sufficient services available and all that sort of stuff. Keep in mind, there's a very big desert in the middle of Australia, which is inhabitable, so it's not quite as big as you'd make out. But the cultural point is important here. In the post-war period, Australia did get the multicultural mix right when you had a predominantly European intake of immigration. It is much easier to integrate someone coming from Greece or from Italy or from the United Kingdom. In the last 5 to 10 years, maybe the last 20 years perhaps, that mix has changed substantially, and you've seen a lot more people who have come from countries, fundamentalist Islamic countries. Again,
but of course, not everybody who comes from those countries are shooting up the beaches.
And no one is saying that. And this is the straw man that you'll get, you know, in social media arguments. No one is saying that. In fact, there have been some reports that the hero who stopped one of the attackers is Muslim. I'm hearing conflicting reports on this. Some people are saying he's a Lebanese Christian. The truth will come out. But the fact of the matter is, of course, some Muslims, you know, integrate into society, and some Muslims are nothing short of heroic. No one is saying anything to the contrary, or at least very few people. But I think that is a distraction from a bigger question of when you have Islamic immigration at scale, as in when there are large numbers of Islamic immigration, does that have an impact on a Western liberal democracy, and is that compatible with how we think about the treatment of women, with how we think about the treatment of minority groups, and with how we think about the distinction between church or indeed mosque and state? And on each of those three issues, I would dare say that there are fundamental cultural incompatibilities between many of the countries that these people are coming from and a country like Australia or the UK.
And again, you always tread carefully with the language because the fear of is being called a racist, isn't it?
Yes.
And that's, I think, part of the problem where we are afraid to do things that are reasonable and sensible because we're afraid of that term.
That's exactly right. I'm in an interesting position of being close to Australia and the UK. I think the UK has done away with those nasties now. I think this is maybe the moment Australia will do the same.
OK, GBNews contributor Will Kingston, thank you for joining us.
Mark White as well, thank you so much. Don't forget Mark.
No, never.
Right, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GBNews. Lots more coming up on today's show.
We'll have a reaction to the shock news that the legendary Hollywood actor and director Rob Reiner and his wife have died. Police are treating it as an apparent double homicide.
But after the break, we'll get reaction to Kemi Badenoch's comments live on GB News just a few minutes ago as she hit back at the drive for net zero.
All of that and much more to come. You're watching GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the cars. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m. So this is a lovely story because it's about a chap who bought this DB5 and he bought it for 900 quid. This is an Aston Martin DB5.
It's a lovely car.
Bought it for 900 quid. And then for 50 years, pretty much didn't do very much. He moved to the Middle East, car left was on his driveway, things happened, the local kids jumped on it and various other things, and it just decayed. He has spent pretty much the big wodge of 400 grand having it done.
Do you have a picture of this car now?
Oh, I thought as I was waffling. Well, I can hold it up. But this is how it looks now. There we go. This is how it looked then and now. I don't know which.
So he spent 400 grand on this.
400 grand. He sent it back to Aston Martin.
Oh.
To where it was made, and the reason it's worth now about $1 million is because there were only 37, I think,
39
of them made, and so it's very rare. There we go. Well done, him.
Pretty penny on that. Good for him.
Yeah. Yes, and good for him.
He hasn't made it yet.
No, he hasn't made it. It's just work. I know. He may. He could.
I was reading a story about a man who'd spent £1 million on a DB5, and it's now worth 500,000. But,
right,
they
OK.
hit a peak a couple of years ago, but who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
But don't you want to spend money on a car in order to use it, not to sell it?
Well,
I mean,
he's just...
I had a car like that. I drive it.
Of course. No, then that's what... He's not selling it. He's worked hard to... He said, we've worked hard to get it
It's a work of art.
Reconditioned, and it's just... And he loves it.
I wonder, does it have machine guns and things they're going
to... Oh, no, weirdly, it says no.
Or an ejector seat.
No ejector seat, exactly. Or any of those other things, yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Good Afternoon Britain. The time is 12:27, and earlier in the programme, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch joined us and outlined how she would change the Conservatives' approach to net zero. So here's what she said.
What I'm saying is let's have some common sense. I've always been sceptical that this net zero plan would work. It is not working. The problem we have is that Labour is now doubling down. I managed to get the deadline pushed to 2035. They've brought it forwards. If we want to have a good transition, if we want to tackle climate change, we have to do it in a common sense way.
Well, time now to get some reaction to her comments from someone who may take a different point of view.
Maybe.
We're joined by the chair of the London Green Party, Eugene McCarthy. Eugene, what do you think about this? It's pretty common sense to most of us, the general public, that net zero is an impossibility, especially to 2030. Even the EU is saying that. And actually, most of us would probably like it scrapped. Where do you stand with it?
Hi, thank you for having me on. Yes, so I think I do actually agree. I would like a common sense approach to net zero. I don't think the Labour government are actually going to deliver it, and I think you probably agree with that. You see, kind of the issue that I see is that net zero is part of an industrial strategy. So many jobs, British jobs, have been offshored to countries who are investing in their industries of the future, things like electric vehicles, like solar and other renewable technologies. The UK is not keeping up with that. We aren't investing, and the government has made it, really quite difficult for businesses and for state-led sectors and national-led sectors to invest and to get growing. We see other countries, like even America under Trump, are taking this a lot more seriously. They're protecting their industries. Trump's using tariffs. China, on the other hand, invests a tremendous amount of government resources into these industries of the future. By contrast, in the UK, we have a really silly approach to net zero where the government says, actually, we're going to give out loads and loads of money, but we're not going to make sure that it's going to British businesses, to British workers. We're going to have these really blanket, untargeted subsidies, which don't really work, and they don't get us the outcomes they need. Simply put, if we are dependent on countries who really don't like us for our energy, for our transition to a green economy, it's not going to work. Where I disagree quite substantially.
I just want to say to you, but Trump has abandoned net zero.
He's abandoned net zero, but the approach that he's taking to tariffs in terms of American industry, I think has a lot of benefits that we can be learning from in our approach to net zero, even if he does not believe in it.
So, Eugene, what would the Green Party policy be on this? Because the Conservatives are suggesting, well, they are saying that they are going to ban they're going to reverse the ban on the future sales of petrol and diesel cars.
I don't think that's where the industry is. If you look at what the car manufacturers are actually saying, earlier this year we had the Stellantis plant in Luton shut down. The reasons that they gave for that shutting down were not the EV mandates. That was a really small part of it. It's trade barriers with the EU. We can't export to one of our biggest trading partners. It's this constant flip-flopping from the government. If they keep changing their mind every couple of years, then everyone who wants to invest in the UK thinks, God, we're a bunch of, can't make our mind up wussies who, can't take a serious national strategy. We need to have the government pick an approach and actually stick to it.
So what is the Green Party approach, though? I hear what you're saying. We don't look like a load of wussies. What are the Green Party saying?
We need to invest and invest and invest. This goes for the green economy. It goes for the economy as a whole. The UK has chronic underinvestment across the board, and we need to get that up. That's private sector investment. Sure, that's a part of it, but the real big ticket item is government spending. Back in the day, the government used to invest an awful lot of money in British industry, in the economy. They were nationalised sectors. Energy should be nationalised fully, a lot more ambitious than Labour's GB energy plans, which essentially amount to sort of a kind of petty little investment bank.
Yes, but
we need real serious investment.
Are you for or against net zero? Because I'm not sure.
I'm very much for net zero.
You're for
very much for it.
And 2030, are you for that deadline, or do you believe it is unachievable?
I think it's unachievable with Labour. I think if you really want to get there, there are some trade-offs, but I think in the long run it does it makes sense. You look at like the energy prices we have at the moment, where as we are price takers from the global gas markets in particular, we're facing a massive cost of living crisis. Net zero is one way that we can mitigate some of those effects.
OK, Chair of London Green Party, Eugene McCarthy, thank you for joining us.
All right, great. Right, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, we'll get British reaction to yesterday's terror attack in Bondi. All of that and much more after the latest news headlines with Sam.
Very good afternoon to you. 12:33. One of the two gunmen who shot dead 15 people at a Jewish celebration in Sydney is reported to have been under investigation for his links to an Islamic State cell. The pair, a father and son, Sajid Akram and Naveed Akram, opened fire yesterday at Bondi Beach, where people had gathered to mark the start of Hanukkah. The father was shot dead and his son is being treated in hospital. Legendary Hollywood director and actor Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle have been found dead at their home in Los Angeles. Police are investigating the deaths as an apparent homicide after officers were called to the couple's house on Sunday afternoon. No arrests have been made so far and no suspect is currently being sought. The UK has condemned the conviction of British national and Hong Kong media tycoon Jimmy Lai, calling it a politically motivated prosecution. The 78-year-old pro-democracy activist was found guilty under Hong Kong's Beijing-imposed national security law. He now faces a possible life sentence. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper says that Mr Lai was targeted for exercising free speech. Sir Keir Starmer's meeting EU leaders today and Volodymyr Zelensky as pressure grows to secure a peace proposal. Kyiv insists it won't accept a deal that trades away sovereignty, but Russia continues to push demands on territory. And Sir Cliff Richard has revealed he's been treated for prostate cancer over the past year, saying the disease has gone the moment. The 85-year-old singer says the cancer was caught early during a routine health check and hasn't spread. He's now backing calls for a national screening programme for men. Those are the headlines. I'll have a full roundup with the news at 1.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more. or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Thank you, Sam. Lots more coming up on today's show. Next, there's more on yesterday's terror attack in Sydney as police in this country step up security in Jewish communities.
All of that and much more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Further rain to come today for Wales and western areas of England. We do have a number of rain warnings in force, but across the north and west, after a pretty wet weekend, it is going to be much drier. That's because the weather front has moved away from the northwest, but it will linger across Wales, southwest England, into northeastern England as well, into this afternoon and this evening. So there are yellow and amber rainfall warnings. We are expecting further disruption, quite a lot of water on the roads and a risk of flooding too. Further north and west, a much drier day, clear sunny skies actually for Northern Ireland and some areas of western Scotland. Fresher feel here though, temperatures still in single figures. Across the south and east though, ahead of that weather front, another dry day, but there will be a lot of cloud around and it's going to be quite breezy as well. Now that rain band moves slowly eastwards through this evening. Still a fairly dry evening to come for much of Scotland, though there are a few showers moving into the Western Isles. These come on a fairly brisk breeze as well. Should stay relatively dry for Northern Ireland. We could see some mist and fog developing. It will be a chilly night across these areas as well. The rain moves into parts of the Midlands, more central southern areas of England, still feeling quite heavy as well. So some further disruption. We do still have warnings in force throughout this evening, so there will likely be some travel delays. As it moves into eastern areas of England, though, it will become a slightly weaker feature, but there will be finally some rain here after a dry weekend. And further west, it turns clearer and drier. So much drier night to come for much of Wales, western areas of England. Could see a touch of frost across Northern Ireland and a bit of mist and fog around to start the day on Tuesday. But Tuesday itself is going to be a much more widely pleasant and drier, sunnier day. Now that's away from the far east where the cloud and rain will still linger. It's a pretty slow moving feature, this weather front. So it does take a while to move out of the far east. And a few showers on a brisk breeze will move into the far northwest. And for all of us, temperatures will widely be in single figures. So a cooler day, but definitely a drier one.
Thank you so much for helping us to reach 8 million followers and subscribers across our social media channels. That's 8 million fearless Brits standing up for what really matters.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M90 Junction 1C off slip is closed southbound due to an incident. Travellers on the A40 between Llandilo and Manordalo should be aware of flooding. In Cumbria, the M6 southbound between junctions 39 and 38 has one of 3 lanes closed from a collision. Meanwhile, the M62 westbound has one of 4 lanes closed between junction 30 and 29 due to an earlier incident. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast reports poor weather disrupts travel between Milton Keynes Central and Rugby, while East Midlands Railway faces disruption between Sheffield and Stockport. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back to time 12:38, and let's get more reaction to the terror attack in Sydney. Jews across the country are coming together to mark Hanukkah, and GB News' national reporter Will Godley joins us live now from North London.
Well, welcome to the programme. So talk to us. What are people saying where you are? Obviously, there's a big Jewish community in North London.
Yeah, Nana, Cameron, good afternoon from here in North London. Of course, an area of the capital where lots of Jewish people live in the area. And last night we're here in the square here with the menorah behind me for the first night of Hanukkah, coming together as a community, which would normally be a moment of celebrating Hanukkah. But last night, of course, grieving the 15 people killed in this horrific attack. And there are still flowers laid at the menorah behind me as the community community came together to have their grief together, particularly also remembering the British-born rabbi who was killed there, Rabbi Eli Schlanger, who was known by many people here in North London, including by the local rabbi here who grew up with him on the same street. They were childhood best friends, and I'll be speaking to him a little bit later in the programme as he pays tribute to Rabbi Schlanger, killed in this horrific attack, as so many other people have also been paying tribute to him and the other people killed. Last night, of course, at this vigil in central London outside the Australian High Commission, dozens of people came together to pay tribute to those who were killed, flying Israeli flags, British flags and Australian flags. Also saying prayers for those still in hospital, recovering with gunshot wounds as well. And as the menorah there was lit, the words also spoken as well from Rabbi Lou there, who was leading the vigil there, paying tribute to Rabbi Schlanger, who died, saying he was really a picture of kindness, of warmth, of service and of helping others. And he also gave a message to those at this vigil where he said just a small amount of light, a small good deed can drive away a long darkness. Of course, that is the message of Hanukkah. And he went on to tell crowds there last night that his first reaction upon hearing the tragic attack, horrific attack that took place in Australia was to think, how can we bring more light into this world? And by doing so, he said, we need to have more Hanukkah events. So he was imploring people this week as Hanukkah goes on to go to Hanukkah events, to not be afraid and to celebrate Hanukkah. But of course comes at a time when we're hearing from many Jews in Britain and here in North London as well that it is a scary time to be Jewish in Britain, that there is heightened concern about their safety. Of course, we were hearing that, weren't we, after the synagogue attack in Manchester on Yom Kippur, and lots of those concerns were talked about last night at this vigil, as well as Dov Foreman, the Jewish author, spoke there, talking about the grim pattern, in his words, of Jewish festivals and Jewish events being targeted by attackers, and saying, condemning governments around the world, but also here in the UK, for not doing enough to tackle anti-Semitism. He said last night, people want to pretend that these attacks came out of nowhere, but we here tonight know that they do not. He said they come off the back of months and years of incitement after hate marches, after graffiti, after threats, after chants to globalise the Intifada, talking about the rise of anti-Semitism, making many people here in North London and across the UK, many Jews, feel unsafe to be Jewish here in Britain. Well, the Metropolitan Police yesterday said that they are aware of the heightened concerns that Jewish people have about their safety of this time during Hanukkah, and they said that they are going to increase police presence around synagogues in London and other Jewish venues, and working with the Community Security Trust as well to ensure that Jewish people feel safe at this time. And also tonight in Westminster, a further vigil planned by the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, as Jewish people and other people in the community will stand side by side to pay tribute to the 15 people killed, also to pray for those in hospital recovering from gunshot wounds, some 40 people or so in hospital, and also to really thank that hero, of course, Ahmed Al-Ahmed, the man, the 43-year-old fruit shop owner who stood in harm's way, just an innocent bystander who tackled the gunman there, no doubt saved countless lives. But this vigil tonight outside the Houses of Parliament will also implore MPs to do more to tackle anti-Semitism that Jewish people here in North London and around the UK feel that is not being done enough to make them feel safe at the moment.
All right, well, Will Godley, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. That is Will Godley. He's there in North London. Now, the thing is, one thing I didn't realise, Cameron, and it is only really just come about, I've learned about it over the last sort of 6 months or so, is that a lot of Jewish people need to have security around schools, synagogues and things like that. And they've been going about their business and paying for that, or having volunteer security people doing this for years.
Yeah.
For years, decades, in fact. And the fact that that has been allowed to continue has kind of normalised a behaviour. And I just find it quite abhorrent.
I think a lot of people have become aware of just how bad anti-Semitism is, I think, perhaps in the Western world. After October 7th, I think there was far more of an awareness. As you say, Nana, it's shocking that outside of Jewish places of worship, synagogues, they have to have security. Outside of schools, they have to have security. And I just don't see how this ends without some kind of intervention to tackle the anti-Semitism that is happening in the Western
and I think
world.
Police protection, great, but I think there needs to be something that's more proactive rather than reactive. But stay with us. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
We will be getting the reaction to a major announcement from Reform MP Danny Kruger, who's outlined plans to get rid of almost 70,000 civil servants.
Sounds good to me, but now, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast of some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's not just the UK that's seeing unsettled conditions at the moment. Many western and central areas of the Mediterranean are also experiencing a mixture of heavy rain, thunderstorms, even some hill snow in locations. Gales pushing their way through the Gibraltar Strait and other coastal regions as well. Some areas may see 100 to 150 millimetres of rain, significantly above their December average. It's eastern areas around Greece and the Balkans that will stay driest, though, if you are heading out at all.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Well, lots more coming up on today's show. We'll be having the reaction to the shock news that legendary Hollywood actor and director Rob Reiner and his wife have died, and police are treating it as an apparent double homicide.
Well, all of that and much more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news. Good afternoon, Britain. The Doctors' Union, the BMA, says that resident doctors in England have rejected the government's latest pay offer, meaning that Wednesday's strikes will go ahead as planned. And all of this comes amid warnings that strike action this Christmas could leave the NHS in ruins. Now, the strike will start at 7 a.m. on Wednesday, and finish next Monday morning.
Yeah, the government said that the New Deal aims to end the jobs crisis for doctors in England. But of course, all of this comes at a time where the NHS last week, official data said that it was exposed to a huge number of flu cases, overwhelming hospitals within the United Kingdom. The NHS are going to try and maintain 95% of their workforce, but clearly this strike by resident doctors could well exacerbate the situation. The Prime Minister has been calling these strikes irresponsible during a visit to Norfolk last week. So Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, has been saying pretty much the same thing.
Although some people are arguing that they're scaremongering to try and sort of influence the decision of this vote, but it hasn't worked. And, of course, that strike will go ahead on Wednesday at 7 a.m.
We will, of course. If we have any more information on that, we will bring it straight to you. But for now, a Hollywood murder probe is underway after Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were found dead in their Los Angeles home yesterday.
Investigators believe that they sustained stab wounds, and a family member is currently being questioned over the deaths.
Well, let's discuss this tragic story with showbiz journalist Sarah Louise Robertson. Sarah, good afternoon to you. First of all, what was Rob like as a director and an actor? He was pretty well known in Hollywood circles, wasn't he?
Yes, that's right. In Hollywood circles, Rob was up there as one of the greats. He's seen as a Hollywood icon. He's directed and created some of the most well-loved films of the 1980s and 1990s. A Few Good Men, Stand By Me, which is my favourite childhood film from 1987. He created the mockumentary, This Is Spinal Tap. Recently, in September, he just did the sequel to that. So he is up there, having created this real sort of cataclysmic legacy of film. Misery is another one, that fantastic horror film with Kathy Bates. So, you know, his range was incredible. And, of course, his most famous and most well-loved, although some may debate with me, would be When Harry Met Sally. That starred one of his best friends, Billy Crystal. The two have had a 50-year friendship spanning all that time from when they acted together back in a comedy back in the 1970s. And then, as I say, Reiner went on to direct Billy in that role, which obviously shot Billy really into the stratosphere as a comic actor. And what was really touching about that film, which people might not realise, is during the filming of it, Rob met his wife Michelle, who sadly obviously has died with him in their home, and he changed the ending of the two of them getting together, Harry and Sally getting together, because he'd got together with his wife Michelle during the filming. She was a photographer. So there's a sort of sweetness to that story, but it's just absolutely shocking what has happened. We haven't seen a murder in Hollywood like this since obviously the murders with O.J. Simpson's wife. So we haven't seen something of this scale since then, and it has absolutely taken Hollywood by storm. That people are deeply shocked, deeply saddened. There was helicopters going around yesterday afternoon. Camille Mayer, who's the ex-wife of Kelsey Grammer, one of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, she tweeted, helicopters up above. She didn't know what had taken place in the neighborhood in Brentwood, which is a very, very affluent area of Hollywood, very, very expensive area. A lot of famous stars and directors and bigwigs in Hollywood live there. And it's, as I say, seen as very well respected. So to see something like this, you know, horrors like this unfold in what's seen as such a leafy, beautiful suburb,
it has just triggered such a... it's just so shocking. It really, really is on such a massive scale.
Sarah Louise Robertson, thank you very much, showbiz journalist. Very tragic story, though. Such an influential director. Incredible what has happened. This is Good Afternoon Britain, and next we'll have the latest on the Sydney terror attack.
And Keir Starmer will be live on GB News at 2 o'clock. But first, let's take a look at your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Further rain to come today for Wales and western areas of England. We do have a number of rain warnings in force, but across the north and west, after a pretty wet weekend, it is going to be much drier. That's because the weather front has moved away from the northwest, but it will linger across Wales, southwest England, into northeastern England as well, into this afternoon and this evening. So there are yellow and amber rainfall warnings. We are expecting further disruption, quite a lot of water on the roads, and a risk of flooding too. Further north and west, a much drier day, clear sunny skies actually for Northern Ireland and some areas of western Scotland. Fresher feel here though, temperatures still in single figures. Across the south and east though, ahead of that weather front, another dry day, but there will be a lot of cloud around and it's going to be quite breezy as well. Now that rain band moves slowly eastwards through this evening. Still a fairly dry evening to come for much of Scotland, though there are a few showers moving into the Western Isles. These come on a fairly brisk breeze as well. Should stay relatively dry for Northern Ireland. We could see some mist and fog developing. It will be a chilly night across these areas as well. The rain moves into parts of the Midlands, more central southern areas of England, still feeling quite heavy as well. So some further disruption. We do still have warnings in force throughout this evening, so there will likely be some travel delays. As it moves into eastern areas of England, though, it will become a slightly weaker feature, but there will be finally some rain here after a dry weekend. And further west, it turns clearer and drier. So much drier night to come for much of Wales, western areas of England. Could see a touch of frost across Northern Ireland and a bit of mist and fog around to start the day on Tuesday. But Tuesday itself is going to be a much more widely pleasant and drier, sunnier day. Now that's away from the far east where the cloud and rain will still linger. It's a pretty slow moving feature, this weather front. So it does take a while to move out of the far east. And a few showers on a brisk breeze will move into the far northwest. And for all of us, temperatures will widely be in single figures. So a cooler day, but definitely a drier one.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
I have the story here today. The brain has 5 eras in it, and the adult mode doesn't start until the early 30s.
Yes. What it says is that rather than a sort of steady progression, your brain sort of changes at particular points in your life. So you've got phases of your life. So you change at 9 is the first point where your brain changes. Then it's 32 when adolescence finishes in terms of your brain, according to the study. Then you've got 66, which is where I've just got past. And then you've got 83. And then the force.
What happens in 66? I'm asking for someone to know.
Asking for a friend.
You're asking for a personal reason. I'm afraid we start having less effective brains past 66 is what the consequence is. Some of the neural functions don't work as well. So it says here. Of course, Eamon, there are exceptions, such as you and me, perhaps.
No, I know there's plenty of things going wrong, yeah.
But 32 is the strongest overall shift in trajectory, it says here. This is a study that's been carried out, but I think Cambridge University have done
What
this.
happens at 32? Asking for a friend.
You end up becoming more of an adult than you were when you were 31, apparently.
That's good. I became an adult last week.
Yeah, I know.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I'm surprised they haven't, just made a discrepancy between male and female brains in this, because I don't think men ever grow up. I think the adult, wouldn't you? Maybe 66 is the way that men mature.
If they ever do.
Because your birthday's what, December the 3rd?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming up, Eamon.
I agree with you about not growing up. I mean, people say, what do you want for Christmas? What do you want for your birthday?
He wants a big burger from the Metro.
Men like toys.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Monday, the 15th of December. I'm Cameron Walker.
And I'm Nana Akua. And on the show today...
We'll have the latest from Sydney after yesterday's terror attack. 15 people have been killed and more than 40 others are in hospital after 2 gunmen opened fire at an anti-Semitic massacre.
Well, the Australian authorities say that one of the suspects was known to the security services, having been in close contact with the cell connected to ISIS in Sydney.
Police in the UK are stepping up security for Jewish communities in this country. Our reporter Will Godley is in North London.
Yeah, the Metropolitan Police saying they want to tackle what they're describing as significant heightened concern about safety amongst British Jews as a further vigil is planned for this evening, calling for more to be done to tackle anti-Semitism.
Breaking news in the last few minutes. The BMA has rejected the government's latest pay offer, meaning Wednesday's strike will go ahead by resident doctors. We will get the latest reaction.
And it's a big day for Sir Keir Starmer. He's facing a grilling from MPs at the end of what's been a terribly bad year for the Prime Minister. We'll bring you that live from 2 o'clock.
Well, just to recap on that breaking news in the last few minutes, resident doctors have voted to strike in England after voting on whether to proceed with a 5-day strike, which is potentially going to affect a lot of hospitals up and down the country. The BMA conducted an online survey of members of these resident doctors, and they have now made their decision. And this is, of course, they say, the BMA, that there's a job crisis in England for doctors. They can't get jobs. But then, of course, hospitals, Nana, already overwhelmed by this flu epidemic.
Well, I think, I don't know, but for me, I think the whole thing about the job thing is a part smokescreen. I agree that we should, I've always said it, I don't understand why we continue to recruit people from abroad. Then we go on saying, oh, without immigrants, the NHS would fall apart and blah, 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 blah. Yes, that may be true, but however, we are literally taking those doctors from other countries that could potentially need those doctors. So I don't think it's wise. We need to build our own infrastructure from the people here in this country. And there is a problem with recruitment of resident doctors simply because we're not allowing, we've got over 10,000, I think, or so looking for jobs, yet there are loads of spaces, but we're not giving them the jobs. I think it's terrible. But they're also asking for some more money, which I think is silly because you already know how much you're going to get paid initially. You've got a fantastic pension if you're a doctor and incredible opportunities for career progression, not like many jobs.
The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, said ahead of these strikes, if they did go ahead, that patients would experience unnecessary and avoidable disruption disruption, which perhaps is putting it mildly. And the Prime Minister called the union responsible, that's the BMA, British Medical Association, during a visit to Norfolk on Thursday as irresponsible. So the Labour government are clearly furious about this. I'm sure patients, if you've got appointments in hospitals in England, are going to be pretty furious about this. But resident doctors believe they have an unfair deal. They can't get the jobs they need. And as you say, Nana, they want more money as well.
I think that's the crux of it. They want more money. But I would like to see more jobs being given to the doctors in this country. I think that's absolutely reasonable. But I think once the deal is done, I think part of that agreement should be that they lose the right to strike.
Well, do let us know what you think of this, gbnews.com/your say. And also, if you've got a hospital appointment planned over the next week or so, please let us know, because we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, scan the QR code on your screen now. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you from the newsroom. The top story this lunchtime. The world is once again reeling after a deadly terror attack targeting Jewish people, this time at Sydney's iconic Bondi Beach. 2 men opened fire at a Hanukkah gathering, killing 15 people. The victims include a 10-year-old girl, a British-born rabbi and a Holocaust survivor. Leaders across the world have condemned what they call an anti-Semitic attack, and security's been stepped up around Jewish communities in major global cities. Well, here's what the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese had to say about the attack overnight.
What we saw yesterday was an act of pure evil, an act of anti-Semitism, an act of terrorism on our shores in an iconic Australian location, Bondi Beach, that is associated with joy, associated with families gathering, associated with celebrations. Today, all Australians wrap our arms around them and say, we stand with you. We will do whatever is necessary to stamp out anti-Semitism.
Police have confirmed that the gunmen were father and son, Sajid Akram and Naveed Akram. The older man died at the scene, while his son is still in a critical condition in hospital. They had reportedly pledged allegiance to the Islamic State group, while IS flags were found in their car. Australia's leaders are now pledging action and have been questioning whether gun laws need to be tightened.
I think it's time that we have a change to the law in relation to the firearms legislation in New South Wales.
Breaking news this lunchtime that resident doctors have voted to reject the government's latest offer on working conditions, clearing the way for a 5-day strike to go ahead. It means nearly half of England's medical workforce will walk out this week. The British Medical Association says a 5-day strike will begin on Wednesday, following months of deadlock over pay and working conditions. Health leaders say it could cause major disruption during the busy winter period, with flu cases already at record levels. Ministers are accusing the union of acting irresponsibly and putting pressure on patients. In the US, legendary Hollywood director and actor Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle have been found dead at their home in Los Angeles. Police are investigating the deaths as an apparent homicide after officers were called to the couple's house on Sunday. No arrests have been made and no suspect is currently being sought. The UK has condemned the conviction of British national and Hong Kong media tycoon Jimmy Lai, calling it a politically motivated prosecution. The 78-year-old pro-democracy activist was found guilty under Hong Kong's Beijing-imposed national security law, and he now faces a possible life sentence. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper said that Mr Lai was targeted for peacefully exercising free speech. A man who admitted dozens of offences after a car ploughed into crowds at Liverpool's Victory Parade has appeared in court today for sentencing. Paul Doyle broke down in tears as proceedings got underway at Liverpool Crown Court, with more than 30 victims watching on. Prosecutors said he was driving dangerously, frightening pedestrians on what should have been a day of celebration. The court heard that he ignored traffic measures before ploughing into fans on Water Street. Prosecutors say that sentencing hearing is expected to last for 2 days. The former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is giving evidence to the COVID inquiry today for the second time, focusing on the government's economic response to the pandemic. Mr Sunak, who was the Chancellor at the time, told the inquiry there was no playbook for dealing with the scale of the crisis and defended measures he introduced, including furlough and Eat Out to help out. The hearing will examine the government's preparedness, the economic shock of COVID and the lessons learned from the decisions taken by the government. Kemi Badenoch has said that the Conservatives would scrap the zero emissions vehicle mandate and ditch the 2030 ban on new petrol and diesel cars. That is, if they win the next election. She argues that the current targets are economic self-harm and says policy should follow consumer demand. But the government insists the transition to EVs remains central to growth and net zero plans. The government has said it's rolling out more than £280 million to help colleges expand their capacity. Around £100 million is aimed at construction courses as ministers try to train tens of thousands more workers to meet the government's housing targets. Local leaders and mayors will be able to decide how the rest of the funding is used ahead of an expected surge in post-16 numbers. And Sir Cliff Richard has revealed he's been treated for prostate cancer over the past year, saying that the disease has gone for the moment. The 85-year-old singer says the cancer was caught early during a routine health check and hasn't spread. He's now backing calls for a national screening programme for men. Those are your lunchtime headlines. Next, though, a look at the lunchtime markets.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
9 minutes past 1, here are the markets for you. The pound will buy you $1.3385 and €1.1399. The price of gold, £3,245.80, that's per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,723 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. 10 minutes after 1 o'clock now. We will have the latest on the Bondi terror attack shortly. But first, a two-day sentencing hearing is underway for Paul Doyle. Now, he's the man who drove his car into a crowd of fans at Liverpool FC's Premier League victory parade.
Yes, Doyle has pleaded guilty to 31 charges, including 17 charges of attempting to cause grievous bodily harm with intent, and a warning that some of the details from the court may be distressing to some viewers and listeners.
Well, our national reporter Sophie Reaper is in Liverpool with the latest. Sophie.
Well, this morning here at Liverpool Crown Court, the prosecution began by setting out the facts of this case. They say earlier this year at the Liverpool Victory Parade, Paul Doyle drove his 2-ton vehicle into the crowds, hitting over 100 people. Mr. Greeny of the prosecution then went on to set out the motive. He said, was it possible there was a malfunction with Paul Doyle's vehicle? He said no, it was verified by experts that wasn't the case. He said, was it possible Paul Doyle had taken drugs or had been drinking? He said no. Medics confirmed that was not the case. He was completely sober. He said instead simply Mr. Paul Doyle lost his temper in his desire to get where he wanted to get to. He was prepared to cause harm to those in the crowd, even to children. He said he did what he did intentionally. We were then shown dash cam footage from Paul Doyle's vehicle, and we were warned by the prosecution that in fact what we were about to see was, quote, truly shocking, and I can confirm that it was indeed horrific. In fact, it was actually difficult for those of us in the courtroom to watch. We saw initially the crowd moving slowly, Paul Doyle moving slowly through the crowd, and we saw pedestrians looking shocked and confused at what the driver was doing, and then there was a shift. We hear Paul Doyle lose his temper. He starts to beep his horn vociferously. He's shouting and swearing hysterically at those in front of his vehicle. He then ploughs into the crowd, and we see members of the public hitting the windscreen. The windscreen is cracked at the sheer force that they hit the vehicle with. We hear the screams of the victims as they bounce off this vehicle. It is truly, truly horrific what we've been shown this morning in court. It's so horrific, in fact, that the footage won't be released. Often after court cases, we are given footage by the police, but we've heard now we will not receive that footage because it is so harrowing to watch. Now, we were then shown various mobile phone footage, which showed things like victims being treated on the floor. We saw a pram on its side, which we now know contained a 6-month-old baby, Teddy Everson, who'd been flung 15 feet in the air by the collision with the vehicle. We also saw a 10-year-old girl who we can't name for legal reasons. She was hit head on by the vehicle and bounced off the bonnet. It was, Nana and Cameron, it was truly, truly horrendous. In fact, the police afterwards said it was sheer luck that no one was killed by this horrendous incident. Now, the court has now broken for lunchtime. We'll be reconvening in the next hour or so, and this afternoon we will be bringing you the latest details from this sentencing of Paul Doyle here at Liverpool Crown Court.
Thank you so much for keeping us up to date. I am just genuinely speechless.
Awful.
I can't believe what you've just told us, and thank you so much for sitting through that so you can bring our GB News viewers and listeners the sheer horror of what went on in Liverpool there, and hopefully you can keep us up to date throughout the rest of the afternoon.
And again, just apologies to some viewers who may have found that very distressing. That was very hard to hear. Thank you very much to Sophie Reaper. Right, now the world once again continues to be in a state of shock after another terror attack on Jewish people. But amongst the horrific scenes, we also saw scenes of heroism.
We certainly did. And earlier today, the Premier of New South Wales, Chris Minns, posted a picture on social media as he met the fruit shop owner who tackled one of the attackers. It's been revealed that donations to him have now surpassed $1 million Australian dollars.
Well, we're now joined by GBNews' Home and Security Editor, Mark White, to give us another further update. Mark, so what more can you tell us?
Well, the Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, has been speaking this morning, speaking to the ABC, the national broadcaster in Australia, speaking about the perpetrators, first of all, saying that the attackers, as far as he was concerned, were two evil people driven by ideology, whose actions were the result of an extreme perversion of Islam, that according to the Australian Premier. He also said that these two men, father and son, Sajid Akram and Naveed Akram, were not part of a wider terrorist plot, that investigators had established that this appeared to be a localised plot, that the two acted together, not in conjunction with others. But he did confirm that the son, 24-year-old Naveed Akram, was known to the security services for his close links to an ISIS terrorist plot in Sydney in 2019, or at least an ISIS terrorist cell. Two members of that cell have subsequently been prosecuted and jailed. That's Naveed Akram that we're looking at, the images there on the footbridge overlooking that little area of Parkland where people had been gathering for the start of the Hanukkah celebrations when they opened fire, both father and son. And we, of course, you saw the pictures of the state Premier, Chris Minns, meeting with Ahmed Ali Ahmed, the hero who intervened to stop the father of Naveed Akram, Sajid Akram, going and firing off his pump-action shotgun next to that palm tree. The incredible bravery that it took for this man, a local greengrocer, to go off and to wrestle this weapon from the terrorist, undoubtedly saved more lives. But he was injured in that because he was holed up himself behind that tree trying to avoid the gunfire. He was struck multiple times in the shoulder. He's undergone surgery. We're told that that surgery went well, but of course a longer-term prognosis for suffering an injury on one of your limbs like that is potentially mobility issues going forward.
Well, isn't there a donation now? People have been donating money towards him,
yeah.
and the President Trump spoke about him and said how brave he was.
Understandably, I think people right around the world have been moved by the bravery that he's shown, and there is very significant amounts of money that have been donated. I think you were saying before it was $1 million.
$1 million Australian dollars, yes, indeed. Well, Mark White, thank you so much for joining us. I'll speak to you a bit later on. And we can now be joined by the Chief Executive of the Jewish Representative Council, Mark Levy, for his reaction. Mark, good afternoon to you. The Chief Rabbi of the UK was speaking to another broadcaster earlier on today and said he wasn't surprised that this happened in Sydney because there has been a very steady rise of anti-Semitism that doesn't appear to be going away throughout the Western world.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me on your show. The Chief Rabbi is absolutely correct because the tsunami of hate that we have experienced here in the UK has been replicated right across the Western world. What we've seen in Australia is a surge in anti-Semitic hate crimes totaling around 700% in the immediate aftermath of the atrocities committed by Hamas terrorists on October the 7th. And frighteningly, what we've seen there has also taken place on our streets here in the UK. So whether that is medical professionals who are engaging in overt and egregious neo-Nazi level anti-Semitism, both in Australia and the UK. We've had marches where people have spoken about globalising the Intifada or Intifada revolution in Sydney and Manchester and London and many other capitals right across the world, which in our view means the targeting of Jews, simply going about their daily business, seeking to practice their faith. And this is not new to our community. So whilst we are, again, dealing with grief and we are deeply upset by the appalling scenes which you've shown on your show, none of us are surprised because when hatred is allowed to go unchecked right across the whole of society, this is what happens. Individuals become radicalised. And when they become radicalised, they seek to target Jews. Because anti-Semitism is the canary in the coal mine. It is the first sign in society that everything is not correct. And unfortunately, this has played out with deadly consequences, not just in the UK and Australia, but over the last decade in Europe and America as well.
Well, look, some people on those marches would say that they were worried about concerns of death in Gaza and that they weren't actually being anti-Semitic. So just to put that out there, there are some people who go on these marches and think that they're just going for peace reasons, and I get it why they might do that. But again, I you know, if you're in a march with people holding placards saying "From the river to the sea" and people shouting "Death to Jews" and all that kind of thing, then I suggest that if you are wanting peace, then that's probably not the best place to be. But in terms of what you want the governments to do about it, because a lot of, at the moment, there's a lot of police protection now, increased police protection and all that kind of thing. But that is, to me, almost a band-aid, because ultimately this is a lot deeper level. How can we tackle the deeper level of anti-Semitism? Because it's all over the place.
Mm-hmm. You're correct. The response to what has happened both here in Manchester and in Sydney cannot be to build higher walls, implement stricter security checks and have more CCTV cameras. We need to try and find a way to stop people being radicalised at source. And it is incredibly difficult when you have individuals being radicalised by material in their own homes on social media. But in addition, there are concrete steps that can be taken. First of all, we need government to identify the Islamist extremism is the reason why people over the last 2.5 months have targeted Jews right across the whole globe. The terrorist who attacked the Heaton Park synagogue, where I am sitting at the minute, pledged his allegiance to Islamic State, and it's now been widely reported that the father and son who murdered innocent individuals seeking to merely light menorah on Bondi Beach had an Islamic State flag with them. So we need to fully understand and appreciate that effect of this foreign conflict being imported onto our streets. And the way we can combat that is through civilised and respectful dialogue. And even after my community were targeted in a deadly terrorist attack, we held out the hand of friendship to other faith communities. And unfortunately, in Greater Manchester, that has not been grasped. Because whilst performative interfaith is important, we now need to have a difficult conversation about what it is that is taking place, whether that's in places of worship, on marches, or in all sections of society that is leading to people being radicalised to target Jews. Now, we have obviously dealt with a terrorist attack that succeeded in Greater Manchester, but we're also well aware of a number of other plots that have been thwarted, including one that is taking place at Preston Crown Court at the minute, where people were arrested by an undercover officer, again purporting to pledge allegiance to Islamic State, whilst looking to target Jewish institutions and areas here in North Manchester. So we are looking to government and our elected representatives, who have again extensively met with our community, to implement some change to first of all combat these marches where people are supporting prescribed terrorist organisations, to facilitate dialogue between our communities, and to ensure that the Jewish community feels safe to proactively continue engaging in public life.
I think what you're saying is it's spot on. People need to be talking. We need to be talking to all different faiths and getting people involved and interacting, sort of breaking the barriers. Mark Levy, thank you very much. He's the CEO of the Jewish Representative.
Thank you. Now, the time is 1:23. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, at 2 o'clock we will hear live from Sir Keir Starmer. He's going to be facing some tough questions from MPs. But next,
we'll get reaction to the big breaking news that resident doctors have rejected the government's pay offer, meaning a 5-day strike will start on Wednesday.
Well, all of that and much more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Now, let's get more on the news that we broke a short time ago. The Doctors' Union, the BMA, says that resident doctors in England have rejected the government's latest pay offer, which means that Wednesday's strikes will go ahead as planned.
It comes after warnings that the strike action this Christmas could leave the NHS in ruins, and the strike will start at 7 o'clock on Wednesday morning and finish next Monday morning.
Well, let's speak to Roy Lilly, who's a health commentator. Roy Lilly, how surprised you are at this news, and do you think they are right to be striking?
I'm not in the least bit surprised. I didn't think they'd take any notice of West Streeting at all. And are they right to be striking? No. I mean, I don't agree with strikes in the public sector, but we have to deal with what we're dealing with. And Streeting has sort of upped the political ante by saying the NHS was going to collapse like a Jenga tower, I think he said. I don't think that's true at all. What has happened is the flu season has started about a fortnight earlier than it normally has. And there is a particularly virulent strain of flu around this time of the year as well, and that's unusual. But the fact that it started a fortnight early means the graph has started to go up early. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to peak any higher. We just don't know that yet. But I think, I mean, the difficulty now is what happens now. We're going to have this strike. It's fine. The NHS will manage that. They'll just cancel. They'll cancel a lot of elective procedures like hips and knees and that kind of stuff. So if you are hoping to get an operation done before Christmas, well, good luck. You might get it. I don't think you will. And they'll cancel a lot of outpatients, and they'll just focus everything on the people who are in hospital with the flu and to keep the emergencies down. So I think I'm pretty sure the NHS is going to muddle through this. But then it's what happens now. How does Streeting repair this relationship that he's got with the junior doctors? Because somehow or other, he's got to sit down and talk to them. And in the press, he's called them everything he can. He's accused them of everything he can. He accused them of demolishing the NHS. I mean, he's made some really stupid remarks, I think. And if you're going to try and negotiate with people to end a very serious negotiation like this, you've got to be a bit more mature and you've got to build relationships. And slagging people off doesn't help. So I think he's reversed himself into a really difficult corner. The next big part of this will be at the end of January, because the junior doctors' mandate to strike runs out at the end of January. So they then have to go back to their members to see if they can get another mandate to continue striking through until the spring. That's if there isn't an agreement after Christmas. That will be the big turning point. If they can get another mandate to strike through the spring, I think Streeting's position is really very difficult.
I was going to say, Roy, it sounds like you've got that flu. I hope you're feeling better soon.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm very pleased to say I've had the jab, and I have. You can hear I've lost my voice a bit, but I'm pleased I've had the jab, because probably without having the jab, I'd be in one of these pictures that we're seeing on the screen now in the hospital. So have a jab if you can is the message.
Roy, the offer. I've been looking at the offer that was put to these junior doctors, the resident doctors, and the offer includes a fast expansion of specialist training posts, as well as covering out-of-pocket expenses such as exam fees, but crucially does not include extra pay. Why is it that resident doctors are demanding even more pay than they've already been given with the latest pay rise they had?
Well, that's a very good point that you make there. The issue is they went on strike to try and get what they call pay restoration. So they did some calculation using retail price index, and they said inflation has eroded our pay by 20-30%, and we want some kind of a stage payment restitution so we can get back in the pay hierarchy where we should be. Now, Streeting, when he came in, he gave them a whacking great big pay rise and thought he'd done the deal. And I'd said at the time, and I'm pretty sure I said it on GBNews, I said, this is a 2-year deal. He needed a 3-year deal to finish the deal off. But he didn't do that. He gave them a 2-year deal. If he'd have given him a 3-year deal, I think he could have got over the hump to try and get the pay restoration. But he didn't do it. Either the Treasury wouldn't play ball or he wouldn't listen or whatever. So here we are now in the 3rd year, and they're now saying, well, we've got even more inflation in the system, and the gap is even bigger. He has to sit down and look at that. I mean, we can all say, can't we, because inflation hits us all. You know, your salary, my salary, we've all been hit by inflation. There's no question about it. But, you know, they've got a lot of traction, these guys. And
they they used they should have used the CPI, really, the Consumer Price Index, to work out their pay increase, because it would have only been about 4% behind.
It's a very good point.
And they're also doing really well. So, Roy, we do have to leave it there. But thank you very much for your thoughts. Always good to talk to you. Hope your cold gets better.
Yes, thank you, Roy. And we are now going to hear from the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, for his reaction.
Well, the BMA said that their dispute was about pay, so the government gave the resident doctors a 28.9% pay rise. They then said it was about jobs because of the competition for training places being around 4 to 1. So we offered thousands more training places and emergency legislation to reduce the competition down to less than 2 to 1. I think it's now clear that what these strikes are really about is the BMA's totally unrealistic demand for another 26% on top of the 28.9% pay rise they've already had. Not only do I think that is unreasonable and obviously unaffordable, I offered to postpone these strikes, to reschedule them for January, because of the enormous risks to patients and the NHS at the worst possible time, given the enormous pressures we're seeing and the disruption caused by flu. The BMA have chosen to strike this week, not only to cause maximum impact and damage to the NHS, but choosing to do so at a time when there is the maximum risk to patients. I think that is irresponsible, and I think it's dangerous. And even now, if the BMA want to reschedule to January, the government will facilitate that.
Was treating a little while ago. Yeah, I think that's the point. They want to strike at the most poignant time to make it as difficult as possible for everybody else.
Yeah, the Health Secretary calling it a totally unrealistic demand from the BMA, and it's all about the unrealistic and unreasonable and unavoidable pay rise they are demanding. Much more on that throughout the programme, but for now, here's the latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. The top stories this lunchtime. One of the two gunmen who shot dead 15 people at a Jewish celebration in Sydney is reported to have been under investigation for his links to an Islamic State cell. The pair, a father and son, Sajid Akram and Naveed Akram, opened fire yesterday at Bondi Beach, where people had gathered to mark the start of Hanukkah. The father was shot dead and his son is being treated in hospital. As we were just hearing, nearly half of England's medical workforce will walk out this week after resident doctors voted to reject the government's latest offer. The BMA says a 5-day strike will begin on Wednesday following months of deadlock over pay and working conditions. Ministers are accusing the union of acting irresponsibly and putting pressure on patients. Legendary Hollywood director and actor Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle have been found dead at their home in LA. Police are investigating the deaths as an apparent homicide after officers were called to the couple's house on Sunday. No arrests have been made and no suspect is currently being sought. The UK has condemned the conviction of British national and Hong Kong media tycoon Jimmy Lai, calling it a politically motivated prosecution. The 78-year-old pro-democracy activist was found guilty in Hong Kong and now faces a possible life sentence. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper said Mr. Lai was targeted for exercising free speech. And Sir Cliff Richard has revealed he's been treated for prostate cancer over the past year, saying the disease has gone at the moment. The 85-year-old singer says the cancer was caught early during a routine health check. He's now backing calls for a national screening programme for men. Those are the latest headlines. Plenty more still to come.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Gosh, now can you believe we're only 10 days until Christmas now, and we've got a Christmas cheer for you because it is time for the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year, an incredible £85,000 with all of that extra cash in your bank. This 2026 could be very good for you. Here's all the details.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. What would you say yes to? For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Best of luck with that. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, later this hour we'll speak to a friend of the British-born rabbi who was killed in the Bondi terror attack.
You're watching GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Further rain to come today for Wales and western areas of England. We do have a number of rain warnings in force, but across the north and west, after a pretty wet weekend, it is going to be much drier. That's because the weather front has moved away from the northwest, but it will linger across Wales, southwest England, into northeastern England as well, into this afternoon and this evening. So there are yellow and amber rainfall warnings. We are expecting further disruption, quite a lot of water on the roads and a risk of flooding too. Further north and west, a much drier day, clear sunny skies actually for Northern Ireland and some areas of western Scotland. Fresher feel here though, temperatures still in single figures. Across the south and east though, ahead of that weather front, another dry day, but there will be a lot of cloud around and it's going to be quite breezy as well. Now that rain band moves slowly eastwards through this evening. Still a fairly dry evening to come for much of Scotland, though there are a few showers moving into the Western Isles. These come on a fairly brisk breeze as well. Should stay relatively dry for Northern Ireland. We could see some mist and fog developing. It will be a chilly night across these areas as well. The rain moves into parts of the Midlands, more central southern areas of England, still feeling quite heavy as well. So some further disruption. We do still have warnings in force throughout this evening, so there will likely be some travel delays. As it moves into eastern areas of England, though, it will become a slightly weaker feature, but there will be finally some rain here after a dry weekend. And further west, it turns clearer and drier. So much drier night to come for much of Wales, western areas of England. Could see a touch of frost across Northern Ireland and a bit of mist and fog around to start the day on Tuesday. But Tuesday itself is going to be a much more widely pleasant and drier, sunnier day. Now that's away from the far east where the cloud and rain will still linger. It's a pretty slow moving feature, this weather front. So it does take a while to move out of the far east. And a few showers on a brisk breeze will move into the far northwest. And for all of us, temperatures will widely be in single figures. So a cooler day, but definitely a drier one.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the UK. We're truly humbled, and we couldn't have done it without you.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M90 Junction 1C off-slip is closed southbound due to a traffic incident. Flooding affects both directions on the A40 between Llandilo and Manadalo, causing significant disruptions. In Luton, there's a vehicle tyre change on the M1 northbound between Junction 10 and 11. Drivers in Surrey face delays on the M23 southbound as a broken-down vehicle between Junction 8 and 9 blocks a lane. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast passengers should expect weather disruptions between Milton Keynes Central and Rugby. Similarly, East Midlands railway services are delayed between Sheffield and Stockport. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. The time is 1:41 and the world is once again in a state of shock after another terror attack on Jewish people.
Now, the incident has sent shockwaves around the world, and closer to home, security has been stepped up in the UK's Jewish communities, with police increasing patrols around synagogues and other venues as tens of thousands celebrate Hanukkah.
Yes, and joining us now is former lead on counter-terrorism at City of London Police, Kevin Hurley. Kevin, good afternoon to you. Security has been stepped up in the UK. What does that actually mean in practice? And well, is this doing enough to make the Jewish community feel that they are safe?
Well, it doesn't mean much, really. They will post some uniform patrols in the vicinities of synagogues, They are probably unarmed because we essentially are an unarmed police force in the country, so most of our officers are unable to intervene decisively in these situations, but they will do what is called in the trade reassurance patrols. But for a determined shooter or someone with a knife, they're pretty meaningless. What I always say whenever I come on here after these kind of atrocities, whether they're in Australia or in the UK, is just how unprepared we are in the UK to deal with this situation. We have been very lucky every time a mad terrorist like this has set about attacking people with knives, vehicles or guns, in that by pure chance they've chosen their targets badly. And by that I mean they've done it just down the road from where armed response vehicles happen to be based, and quite often they're probably in having their fish and chips or their lunch. Were they, for example, this situation to occur on a beach in Broadstairs or Margate or Weston-super-Mare, this would be a very different situation in the United Kingdom, because it would take police
Kevin,
a very long time.
Kevin, we hear you, but let's not give them any ideas. Just, we wouldn't want to give them any ideas, but I hear what you're saying.
Well, why don't we give our security people some ideas and follow the route that I've tried to follow in the past, which is say, let's stop believing that Dixon and Doc Green is real. Let's remember, Dixon of Dr. Green, when the film that filmed that image, was shot dead by a terrorist. My point I'm making is we are not able to respond decisively to protect us, the public, when these incidents occur, whether it's in our shopping centres, outside our
Kevin,
clubs
we're
and
running
so
out
on.
of time. Sadly, we have to leave it there. Really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. That is Kevin Hurley, is the former lead on counter-terrorism at the City of London Police. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, at 2 o'clock we'll hear live from Sir Keir Starmer, who's facing some tough questions from MPs.
He certainly is. And now, if you're in some search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast of some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's not just the UK that's seeing unsettled conditions at the moment. Many western and central areas of the Mediterranean are also experiencing a mixture of heavy rain, thunderstorms, even some hill snow in locations. Gales pushing their way through the Gibraltar Strait and other coastal regions as well. Some areas may see 100 to 150 millimetres of rain, significantly above their December average. It's eastern areas around Greece and the Balkans that will stay driest, though, if you are heading out at all.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
So cute. You got a birthday present for Eamon.
What do you mean so cute? It's wrapped in Tottenham Hotspur paper.
That's what's so cute. I bet you love that.
There you go. Look at that. It's in Tottenham Hotspur paper. Would you like it now?
Yeah.
Come on.
Open it now.
Come on, birthday boy.
I can't possibly
Happy birthday.
I can't possibly see what you could have bought me from the Tottenham Hotspur shop that would be of any interest. Oh, it's this to do with Big Pat.
What?
This is big.
Listen, don't get overexcited. That's all I can say.
Well, the paper aside,
Apart from the paper.
Oh, an SPV vehicle.
There it is.
Absolutely incredible.
A what?
That's from Captain Scarlet.
Do.
Oh,
yeah.
no. You did say you wanted toys.
That is joyous, Paul. Thank you very much indeed,
Happy
my
birthday.
friend.
Are you going to keep it in the box, or are you going to play with it? I'll have to get another one.
What if I take it out and put it back in the box?
Yeah, I think we'll be all right.
I've never had one this size before.
How big was the other one you had then? Was it smaller?
About the size of the box.
Oh, right, OK, nice.
Yeah, this is very cute. Very, very good.
What is it?
It's a Corgi SPV vehicle. It's from Captain Scarlet. Special Patrol vehicle.
Oh, a special patrol vehicle.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
When you were a kid, when I was
Come on,
10
Ellie.
years
It's an
of age,
SPV. It's a special patrol
What is an SPV?
vehicle.
Oh, lovely. I'm so pleased that you're happy.
That's
well
actually
done, Quitty.
quite tasteful paper.
It's not bad, is it? Do you not want the paper? Do you not want to keep the Spurs paper as a souvenir?
You've also got a little Spurs card here. Do you see that?
Yeah.
And it says, Eamon, happy birthday from Paul. You've got the nicest handwriting in the world.
Oh, really? Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's like a celebrity's handwriting. Well, you are a celeb.
Oh, now, please. It's not my birthday, everyone.
Anyway, happy birthday.
Anyway, happy birthday.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Welcome back to Good Afternoon Britain, and Jews across the country are coming together to mark Hanukkah, and GB News' national reporter Will Godley joins us live now from North London. Will, over to you.
Well, Cameron, Nana, good afternoon to you. Yeah, from here in North London, of course, an area of the capital with a large Jewish community. Many people gathering here last night to mark the first night of Hanukkah and also to pay tribute to those 15 people tragically killed in this horrific attack in Sydney, and particularly someone killed who many people here in the area knew, who was the British-born Rabbi Eli Schlanger. And I'm joined now by Rabbi Mendy Korah, who has known Rabbi Schlanger for, well, since you were children. I'm firstly so sorry this attack has happened and so sorry for your loss. How would you like to pay tribute to Rabbi Schlanger today?
Rabbi Schlanger was a rabbi that was absolutely dedicated to his community. He was dedicated to ensuring that each and every single person should be nurtured and looked after. Yesterday, by that menorah lighting that he was organizing for his community, he was holding boxes like these, a box of a menorah, and handing them to people, making sure that they have a menorah to take home, that they could light in their homes. And I think the way all of us can pay tribute is get your menorahs out, if you're Jewish and listening to this, and light your menorah. This evening's going to be the second night. If you're not Jewish listening to this, wish your Jewish friends a happy Hanukkah. And that's, I think, the best way we can all pay tribute to Rabbi Eli.
And recently, Rabbi Eli Schlanger wrote to the Australian Prime Minister urging him to do more to tackle anti-Semitism. This was after Australia recognised Palestine as a state. The fact then that this horrific attack has taken place just a few months after he wrote to the Prime Minister, how do you feel about him writing to the Prime Minister?
There was another person in addition, another number of people in addition to Rabbi Eli that were killed. And just today I read a note from one of the children of a gentleman that fled from the USSR to Australia to safety and was sharing how they were feeling, and obviously incredibly painful and raw to read, but the sentiment of how for months, for a couple of years now, the way there was language being used across the country, the rhetoric and the just open hate that's happening on the streets, and just the blurring of lines between political expression to just outright hate of Jews anywhere in the world. And it felt inevitable. And a child of someone that's now writing this with their father that's dead. And that's essentially what Eli was feeling. And I can't but absolutely feel like that. And I would probably say most Jews here in Britain feel like that too.
And here in Britain, here in London, the Metropolitan Police said they're going to be increasing their presence during Hanukkah at Jewish venues and at synagogues. Have you noticed, firstly, an increased police presence, and how do you feel that it's even necessary to have that for the Jewish community?
locally here in Islington where we are, I've been working closely with the police, with Islington Council, trying to ensure that this event, which we'd planned for many months and for generally throughout the year, that safety is something that we always think about. We want to make sure to have, for example, our event public. We've got this menorah here out in public, but at the same time, there's that risk. There are unfortunately people that hate Jews. And as an example, a couple of years ago, this menorah just here was vandalized. And as we know, there are things that are happening here in Britain. And on that note, it's a lot of concern. And we need to keep going. We keep going strong. We know that Jews have survived millennia by staying true to our traditions and staying true to keeping to what we hold dear. And essentially, we believe that on a wider society, everybody together can go together and make society a better place.
OK, Rabbi Mendy Korah, thanks for joining us on GB News. Fascinating to talk to you, and thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, Jews and other people in London will be gathering in Westminster later on this evening to pay tribute once again to those who've been killed in this horrific attack, but also to call on the government to do more to tackle anti-Semitism here in Britain.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Will Godley. Really good to talk to him. Lots of you have been getting in touch with lots of topics, but I have to say, Emma sent a message to me saying Nana's off again, not letting guests actually speak and finish the sentence. She was doing it yesterday, and it's starting to get on my nerves. There's no point asking guests on and then constantly interrupt them after they've said 3 words and then cut them off. I used to like Nana, but she's making it the Nana show. Oh. I'm so sorry, but we have to move on. It's not actually my decision, so just so you know, Emma. So it's not the Nana show. It's just not my choice.
All about timings. I get to speak to you, though. Teamwork today. This is Good Afternoon Britain. Lots more coming up after the weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Further rain to come today for Wales and western areas of England. We do have a number of rain warnings in force, but across the north and west, after a pretty wet weekend, it is going to be much drier. That's because the weather front has moved away from the northwest, but it will linger across Wales, southwest England, into northeastern England as well, into this afternoon and this evening. So there are yellow and amber rainfall warnings. We are expecting further disruption, quite a lot of water on the roads, and a risk of flooding too. Further north and west, a much drier day, clear sunny skies actually for Northern Ireland and some areas of western Scotland. Fresher feel here though, temperatures still in single figures. Across the south and east though, ahead of that weather front, another dry day, but there will be a lot of cloud around and it's going to be quite breezy as well. Now that rain band moves slowly eastwards through this evening. Still a fairly dry evening to come for much of Scotland, though there are a few showers moving into the Western Isles. These come on a fairly brisk breeze as well. Should stay relatively dry for Northern Ireland. We could see some mist and fog developing. It will be a chilly night across these areas as well. The rain moves into parts of the Midlands, more central southern areas of England, still feeling quite heavy as well. So some further disruption. We do still have warnings in force throughout this evening, so there will likely be some travel delays. As it moves into eastern areas of England, though, it will become a slightly weaker feature, but there will be finally some rain here after a dry weekend. And further west, it turns clearer and drier. So much drier night to come for much of Wales, western areas of England. Could see a touch of frost across Northern Ireland and a bit of mist and fog around to start the day on Tuesday. But Tuesday itself is going to be a much more widely pleasant and drier, sunnier day. Now that's away from the far east where the cloud and rain will still linger. It's a pretty slow moving feature, this weather front. So it does take a while to move out of the far east. And a few showers on a brisk breeze will move into the far northwest. And for all of us, temperatures will widely be in single figures. So a cooler day, but definitely a drier one.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the greatest cash prize of the Great British Giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here to GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. In a few moments we'll be hearing live from Mr Keir Starmer as he faces a grilling from MPs. We've spoken about the weather, so stay with us for all of that. But good afternoon, it's 2 o'clock on Monday the 15th of December. I'm Nana Akua.
And I'm Cameron Walker. And we will have the latest from Sydney after yesterday's terror attack. 15 people have been killed and more than 40 others are in hospital after 2 gunmen opened fire in an anti-Semitic massacre.
Police in the UK are stepping up security for Jewish communities in this country. We'll have the latest on the impact on people living here.
And it is a big day for Keir Starmer. As Nana was saying, he's facing a grilling, or about to face a grilling from MPs at the end of what's been quite a terrible year for the Prime Minister. We'll be bringing you the very latest.
The BMA have chosen to strike this week, not only to cause maximum impact and damage to the NHS, but choosing to do so at a time when there is the maximum risk to patients. I think that is.
And breaking news in the last hour, the BMA has rejected the government's latest pay offer, meaning that Wednesday's strike will go ahead. We'll be getting the latest reaction to that also.
Well, as we've been saying, there's been some breaking news around resident doctors voting to strike for 5 days starting from Wednesday morning. And lots of you have been getting in touch. Keep getting in touch at gbnews.com/yoursay.
Right, we can now cross live to Parliament, where Prime Minister is facing questions from MPs.
Some of the holiest days in the Jewish calendar. And, of course, we have in our minds Heaton Park here in the United Kingdom in October. And I want to reassure our Jewish communities here in the United Kingdom that we will take every step that we can, use all of our powers to make sure they're safe and secure as they should be in the United Kingdom, and we'll continue our discussions after the session today.
Well, thank you very much, Prime Minister, and I know the thoughts of all of Parliament is with the victims and those affected. Today we are focusing on two issues, and I want to kick off on the issue of standards in public life, and I'll turn to Alberta Costa MP. Mr Costa.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Prime Minister, and thank you for coming before the committee. This year, as you know, marks 30 years since the establishment of the 7 Principles of Public Life, also known as the Nolan Principles. You're familiar with these principles which underpin the ministerial code for which you're responsible, is that correct?
Yes, that's right, and we strengthen the ministerial code to directly put the Nolan Principles in the code itself.
Indeed. And in the foreword to the ministerial code, which has been updated in October of this year, I've got a copy here, you state, this code sets out the higher standards that the British people expect and that ministers must now follow. It enshrines the commitment we all make on entering the service of this nation to uphold the 7 principles of public life. Your words, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. By necessity, I will refer to very recent examples to assist you, Prime Minister, in demonstrating to this committee how you have acted in accordance with the Nolan Principles or relevant codes. Now, the first such example occurred on the 11th of December, only 4 days ago. You posted on your personal X social media account, and I quote, "Catching the bus shouldn't cost the earth. That's why we are capping bus fares at £3 and investing in new buses and stops." Your words, is that correct, Prime Minister? But X-readers added context to clarify your comment. They said, important reminder, that a £2 cap was introduced by the Tories in 2023. Labour have since risen this by 50%. Prime Minister, which of the Nolan Principles do you consider to have followed in publishing your ex-post?
Well, let me just deal with the substance of that, if I may, because the £2 cap was put in place and it came to an end in December 24 with no funding for it to continue, and therefore that was the end of that scheme. What we then put in place was a new scheme for a £3 cap on bus fares, which I'm really pleased that we've been able to do, and that's what I was drawing attention to, not only in the post that went up on X, but also in the visit that I took part in last week. But the scheme that was introduced by the last government, I acknowledge that, came to an end, so that was the end of that capping scheme. What we then put in place was a further capping scheme.
Mr Costa.
Thank you. Can I turn to ministerial statements to the House and standards expected? Under the Ministerial Code at 1.6 brackets B, it states ministers have a duty to Parliament to account and be held to account for the policies, decisions and actions of their departments and agencies. At para 9.1, it states when Parliament is in session, the most important announcements of government policy should be made in the first instance to Parliament. And at para 9.3 it states every effort should be made to avoid leaving significant announcements to the last day before a recess. Prime Minister, are you familiar with these 3 extracts from your own ministerial code?
Yes.
Thank you. Only a few days ago, on Wednesday the 10th of December, on a point of order, the Honourable Member for Harrow East, in respect of the police settlement or the local government settlement, said, and I quote, "Normally there is a debate held about both of these matters, or at least a statement given on the floor of the House, so that members are able to ask questions on the settlements. I understand it seems to be that the government's intention to put out a written ministerial statement on the last day of Parliament and not give us, that is MPs across the House, an opportunity to challenge. Mr Speaker responded, and I quote, "I do take this matter seriously and the House should hear that. A written ministerial statement is not the answer on matters so serious, and those in the Treasury bench should have heard that point. We should not shy away from this House. In fact, we should always come to the House first. I cannot say it more than I do, and this is the salient point. Once again, I suggest that at some point the ministerial code needs to be changed if people are not going to take it seriously, people being your ministers. Given Mr Speaker's response to that point of order, can you tell this committee why your ministers are failing to follow the Nolan principle of accountability, which requires that they submit themselves to scrutiny for their public decisions?"
Well, I do take this seriously and regularly discuss it with the Speaker, and he raises his concerns with me, and we usually try to address the concerns that he's flagged with us. And I'm always happy to do so. That's an ongoing discussion so that there is the scrutiny that is needed of the statements that have to be made.
When ministers fail to update the House and answer questions from MPs, which part of the ministerial code is being upheld?
Well, it's not just the ministerial code, it's the role of Parliament, which almost sits above the ministerial code. Mr Speaker feels this very strongly, that we are accountable to Parliament.
Do you feel this very strongly?
Yes, I do, and that's why I regularly discuss it with the Speaker and look at... He will usually flag with me where he's got concerns, as I would expect him to, and then we go through those and try to make sure they're not...
Were you aware of this point of order raised last week?
I was, yes.
Thank you. I will now refer to a further contemporary example. I understand that this coming Thursday, the last day before the forthcoming parliamentary recess, your government, Prime Minister, intends to publish a progress report on the Grenfell inquiry by way of a written ministerial statement. Given Mr Speaker's comments and your confirmation that you're aware of that point of order, as head of government, why are you permitting this lack of upholding standards, given the important progress report in the Grenfell inquiry and other statements that I understand will be made on Thursday? What are you going to do about that?
Well, I'll happily have a look at the proposed written ministerial statement on Thursday and discuss it with the Speaker.
Thank you. Now, paragraph 1.6 C of the Ministerial Code, it quotes, "It is of paramount importance that ministers give accurate and truthful information to Parliament, correcting any inadvertent error at the earliest opportunity." Prime Minister, you are of course familiar with that paragraph of your Ministerial Code, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Again, by reference to a recent example and to assist you in showing how you comply with the extract from the Ministerial Code, I would like to turn to last week's Prime Minister's questions, when the Leader of the Opposition asked you, how many extra teachers are there since your government took office? Now, fullfact.org, a neutral website, only a few days ago published that the PM, and I quote, claimed that the number of teachers in England is more than when the Conservatives left office. Fullfact.org added, and I quote, "This is not supported by the latest school workforce census figures, which show a fall, not a rise." Can you tell this committee which Nolan principle underpinned your answer?
Well, what I was putting before the House is the fact that we are committed to recruiting an additional 6,500 new teachers, and we've got record numbers of trainees coming into the system, and therefore that number is going up. The role, if you look at secondary schools, further education colleges, the number of teachers has gone up. That's absolutely clear. That's what our commitment was. In relation to primary schools, the number of pupils has gone down pretty dramatically in terms of the birth rate, and therefore the sheer number of teachers at primary level has gone down because less teachers are needed because the birth rate has gone down. But the focus, just for completeness, in our plan for change and in a manifesto was on 6,500 new teachers for secondary schools, specialist schools and colleges, and that's the number I was referring to.
Thank you very much. Can I now turn to the issue of written parliamentary questions and standards? Now, I know my colleague, the Honourable Member for Lancaster and Wyre, as Chair of the Procedure Committee, has issued calls for evidence in her committee's new inquiry. Now, paragraph 9.8 of your Ministerial Code states, and I quote, "Ministers should, where possible, provide full and timely responses to written parliamentary questions, ministerial correspondence and select committee reports." Once again, can I ask you to confirm to this committee that you're familiar with that paragraph of the Ministerial Code?
Yes.
Thank you. Can you explain why your government is failing to provide timely responses to WBQs as obligated under the standards outlined by your own Ministerial Code?
Well, we do our level best to comply, of course, and I think the Procedure Committee is looking into this, which we welcome, and we'll study carefully the findings and any recommendations that are made.
Thank you. Paragraph 1.6d of the Ministerial Code states, Ministers, and I quote, should be as open as possible with Parliament and the public, refusing to provide information only when disclosure would not be in the public interest. Are you satisfied that this is in compliance with the high standards you've set your government, the responses that are currently being made?
Yes, but obviously if the Procedure Committee in due course sets out its findings and any recommendations, I'd want to study them to see whether we can improve in any way.
Smith, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Prime Minister, it's an indisputable fact that political staff in Number 10 have been briefing against serving cabinet ministers, and you and I both sat on opposition benches whilst we had to watch the painful spectacle of political advisers briefing under Johnson and a litany of Tory Prime Ministers. Given that your record when it comes to ministers shows that you've acted very decisively and without favour in terms of applying the ministerial code, I wondered if you could say, given your responsibility for setting and upholding standards across government, if you could explain what steps you've taken to establish the facts and how you're going to ensure that Number 10 political staff act in accordance with the ministerial code, the special advisors code and the Nolan principles.
Yeah, I mean, let me say to start with that briefing against cabinet ministers is completely unacceptable. Whether that's from Number 10 or anywhere else, and I've made that repeatedly clear to my staff, to the Cabinet, and put in place a number of procedures where there have been such allegations to give me a level of assurance that it has not happened in relation to direct briefings against ministers and members of the Cabinet. But I've been really clear and consistent on this with my staff, with my team, with the Cabinet, and put in place procedures when there are allegations to assure myself what the situation is.
Well, and on the subject of leaks, Prime Minister, last week the Treasury Select Committee had the Chancellor in front of us, and she was very cross about the information that was in the 13th of November Financial Times article by George Parker, a renowned political journalist, and she was clear that that was a leak, and she said, and I'm absolutely categorical, and I'm quoting her here, that this was not an authorised briefing. It was incredibly damaging and frustrating. That is why we have a leak inquiry. It was not briefing that was signed off by me or any of my ministers or officials. It was unacceptable. So that does, if it's not the ministers and other officials in the Treasury, there is a danger that it could have been a leak from Number 10. Do you think there was a leak from Number 10 Downing Street about the budget?
In relation to that incident, there's a leak inquiry going on, as I think
we know, yes, absolutely, yes,
yeah.
The Chancellor's announced.
So that will go wherever the evidence takes it.
So if there was a leak from Number, do you think there was a leak from Number 10?
I've no reason to think there was a leak from Number 10.
But if there were a leak from Number 10, what would you do about? What would you do if there was someone was
found? I'd take action. I mean, and I have taken action. It's very difficult with leaks to get to the source of the information.
You would take action?
Where that has happened in the past, I have taken action, which has led to the removal of individuals.
Okay, so you would go as far as removing an individual if they were found to leak the budget?
Obviously I'll wait for the inquiry, but I mean, the inquiry will go wherever the evidence takes it. There's nothing prohibits where they will go, and I'll take appropriate action if there's a finding.
Because the report in the FT was very clear. It talked about an official source, and Mr. Parker is a journalist who would have sourced that story. So
I'll get to the bottom of these leaks. They are. In any organisation, they're intolerable. I took the same action when I was head of the Crown Prosecution Service. There is a leak inquiry. It can go wherever the evidence will take it, and if it comes to a conclusion, I'll act on it.
Okay, so you're going to be ruthless with whoever's done this if they're...
Well, I want to stop these leaks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Alberto.
Thank you, Chair. There is a separate code of conduct, of course, governing standards for special advisers. It's called the Code of Conduct for Special Advisers. You are, of course, familiar with this document, aren't you? Thank you. Paragraph 13 of the Code of Conduct for Special Advisers states, and I quote, briefing on purely party political matters must be handled by the party machine. For the purposes of this code, can you confirm that Labour Party leadership speculation is a purely party political matter?
No, I'm not sure I can. It seems to be pretty right. I mean, in terms of the code, I know exactly where it should be dealt with, but I can say, hand on heart, that none of it is comes from me or is encouraged by me.
Well, we'll come. But I just wanted to confirm that it's a purely party political matter in accordance with the code. Labour Party leadership.
Well, I mean, I think the code is dealing with political briefings of a political nature, which have to come through the party, obviously, and can't come through the civil service. I think wider speculation is not necessarily a code issue.
Thank you. Well, paragraph 15 of the code, just to help you, Prime Minister, goes further. Special advisers must not take public part in political controversy. They must observe discretion and express comment with moderation, avoiding personal attacks. So you're very familiar with the code. I would like to refer to an interview that you gave to Sky Interview. You were asked, you say that was unauthorised, referring to alleged leaks about Wes Streeting. You said that was unauthorised. That makes it sound you've lost complete control of your Downing Street operation. Why didn't you sack the person who was responsible for attacking one of your colleagues? You responded, first, let me be absolutely clear that any briefing against ministers is completely unacceptable. That is not a new position for me. It's a position I've adopted ever since I became Prime Minister. I've been talking to my team today and been assured that no briefing against ministers was done by number 10. You're saying it didn't come from Downing Street, and you responded, I've been assured, second time, it didn't come from Downing Street. Who gave you that assurance?
Well, I had assurance from within Downing Street on a number of different levels, different people in my team.
Who gave you that assurance?
Different levels in my team. I'm not going to...
Please tell us who gave you that assurance.
Was it officials or special advisors that were giving you assurance? Just give us a...
special advisors.
Thank you.
I'm not going to name members of staff, but I will add this. I didn't just take everything at face value. I looked at other bits of evidence to assure myself about what I was then saying publicly to the media.
Thank you. That interview ended as follows. If it didn't come from Downing Street, where did it come from, and will you sack the person responsible? You responded, well, I will absolutely deal with anybody responsible for briefing against ministers. And this is the salient point. I've always said that's the standard I expect, and that's the standard I will enforce. Although you just answered a moment ago to the chair that you have taken action and you've removed individuals, can you just confirm for this committee that in the example that I've cited, when you said that you would enforce a standard, what standard did you enforce in respect of this example?
Well, I can only take action where I've got a clear finding that somebody has breached a relevant duty or standard. When I have had that, I've acted accordingly. And that's not something new to me as Prime Minister. It's what I did as Leader of the Opposition. It's what I did as the Director of Public Prosecutions.
Thank you. My final questions, Chair. Can I turn to another issue that you rightly regularly raised when you were Leader of the Opposition, namely your frequent criticism of previous administrations' alleged cronyism and the way in which public appointments were undertaken? Now, only last month, Prime Minister, you profoundly regretted your own involvement in the appointment process for the chair of the Independent Football Regulator. In your own letter to your independent ministerial advisor, you said, and I quote, in retrospect, it would have been better if I had not been given the note or confirmed that I was content with the appointment. This was an unfortunate error for which I express my sincere regret. Sir Laurie, in his response, stated, it is regrettable, as you say in your letter, that despite the recusal we agreed in autumn 2024 concerning the Football Governance Bill, you were asked to confirm that you were content with the proposed appointment. Can you give this committee an update on progress of your internal review that you said to Sir Laurie would take place to ensure this breach in standards does not happen again?
Well, firstly, can I say, in relation to David Coburn, that he was first approached by the previous government for this role. And therefore I reject the cronyism allegation, which I don't think should rightly be put in his case. He was then endorsed by the cross-party committee, so he was headhunted by the previous government because of his suitability for the role, appointed by this government and endorsed by the cross-party committee. I had recused myself in relation to the bill. The decision to appoint was for DCMS minister. That's set out in the legislation, in the statute. So I knew full well it wasn't my decision. As it happens, a note was put before me to say that's what was going to happen, and was I content? And the independent advisor took the view, which I agree with, that it would have been better if that note had never been put before me. In other words, that the recusal had meant I didn't even get the note before me. But when I said I was content, I was well aware I wasn't the decision maker, because I knew that the legislation set out who the decision maker was, and it was the minister in the relevant department by law, and therefore it couldn't be me in any event. I had actually been talking to the independent advisor about it throughout, as he makes clear in his letter. So this was I always take his advice, even if I don't think there's anything wrong, just so that I've got. But just you asked me when you asked me, I've now asked him to look again at when someone says they're recusing themselves, what are then the processes that need to be put in the office to make sure that even a decision which isn't for the recused person is coming by way of note, in effect, isn't put before them. And that's what just to make sure that we're not in that position again. But I was well aware that I was not the decision maker, because I knew by law it was the minister.
Thank you. Thanks, Prime Minister. Finally, on other public appointments, can I refer you to your recent decision as Prime Minister on appointments to the House of Lords? Prior to the general election, you promised to reduce political appointments to the Lords, and indeed stated as much in your party's manifesto. Might you understand why the public might feel that you're not upholding the high standards you set yourself on appointments to the House of Lords?
Well, it's important that the House of Lords is able to do its vital work of scrutinising legislation. There's an imbalance in the Lords at the moment in the numbers of peers for the relevant political parties, and it's right that we get the balance right as we go forward. But the overarching work to reduce the size of the House of Lords is ongoing. The Hereditary Peers Bill has been going through, and it is important.
My question, it was specifically about your comments prior to the general election and the decision that you made last week. But thank you very much, Prime Minister, for the answers that you've given. Thank you.
Simon Hoare, MP.
Thank you, Chair. Prime Minister, good afternoon. Public trust is pivotal if governance of this country and all of our public life is to be supported and trusted, and that is, I'm afraid, it seems to be a value which is declining, the trust of the public in what we do and why we do it. Baroness Deach, before my committee last week, commented it's quite interesting how oppositions change their position on standards from when they're in opposition to then going into government. We're doing a piece of work which is clearly showing that, notwithstanding Nolan, notwithstanding the EIC, notwithstanding amendments to the ministerial code, there is still an element of what I suppose in the old terms you could have called the good chaps principle, HOLAC, etc. In order to future-proof against rogue operators, and in order to try to bolster declining public confidence, what consideration, if any, have you given or might you give to putting quite a lot of these bodies on a statutory footing, including the ethics advisor at number 10, so that the public can see that there are dispassionate people who take decisions based on good judgment and sound evidence?
Prime Minister.
Yeah, I mean, on the ministerial code, obviously, I did strengthen, and then I also took the step, the independent advisor, before I became Prime Minister, was not able to initiate investigations, could only do it with the Prime Minister's approval. And I thought that was wrong in principle, and that we would, it would be better if the independent advisor, who was appointed under the last government but continued under me, had the ability to say of his own volition, I think this is serious enough for me to look at it. So I have done that. I'm not convinced at the moment we need to go further and put on a statutory basis, but I never close my mind to further steps that could be taken, whether it's in relation to the independent advisor or any of the other relevant bodies.
Thank you very much. So we now move on to the Plan for Change, which was the government's plan on entering government, and the 5 missions that were established. And I'm going to ask Helen Hayes to kick off on the Opportunity Mission. Helen Hayes.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Prime Minister.
Good afternoon.
Prime Minister, your personal commitment to further education and skills is really clear, and we've seen some positive announcements from the government in relation to technical excellence colleges and qualifications reform in the skills white paper. My committee has recently completed an inquiry on further education and skills, and we found that there are 2 areas that are really holding the FE sector back at the moment. The first of those is that unlike other post-16 education providers, FE colleges and standalone sixth form colleges are unable to claim VAT back on their expenditure. This is a tax for which there is no justification, a tax position for which there is no justification, and my committee was very clear on that from the evidence that we found. Will you undertake to speak to the Treasury about this anomaly, which is holding post-16 education providers back from delivering against the government's mission?
I'd certainly have a look at it and talk to the Treasury about it. I'm very keen to do what we can to further education. I think it's part of the system that needs more work, more resource, more capability, and more weight behind it. So I'll certainly have a look at that issue.
Thank you very much. As an example of the scale of change, a difference that would make, a college that my committee visited told us that the amount that they were unable to claim back in VAT made the difference between a whole extra story on a new building that they had recently completed that they weren't able to add to that building. The second area that my committee found as a problem for the FE sector is the disparity in teacher pay for teachers teaching the same subjects within FE colleges compared with schools. A pay disparity of up to 15% makes it really, really hard for them to recruit the teachers that they need. And also difficulties in getting people from industry to come and teach within the further education sector. On a recent visit to Switzerland, we found that the Swiss rail system pay their staff more. They get an extra premium if they are prepared to undertake training for apprentices within the rail system. We've just had the announcement on the setting up of Great British Rail. Will you look at the premium that is placed on training for the next generation of the rail industry within the leverage that you have with Great British Rail and seek to learn from Switzerland on how important it is that the next generation are really well trained?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of the Swiss experience and approach, but certainly very willing to have a look at that. I mean, we do need, in terms of further education colleges, we need to improve the skills, the courses, focus them and make sure they link with the work that those coming out are most likely to be able to do. The retention and recruitment of teachers is hugely important in that sector for some of the reasons you set out. So anything we can do to help in that regard, I'll certainly have a look at the Swiss example and see whether some or all of it can be applied here in the United Kingdom.
Thank you. And then final question.
Well, the Prime Minister there answering questions from the liaison committee in the House of Commons. Lots of questions about public trust and Labour's 5-point plan for change. But our political editor, Christopher Hope, was listening to the Prime Minister's answers there. Chris, what did you make of that?
Young people back.
Dry interrogation of the Prime Minister and what he's up to, but the main part we saw there was looking at this idea of these Nolan principles about what are you doing to ensure that briefing doesn't go on against cabinet ministers? What about the budget leaks? What about appointing a football regulator who for various reasons that the Tories are concerned about? Now, we'll get more lines developing from there, but we heard there clearly from the Prime Minister, he is desperate to stop these leaks. He is fully against the leaks against members of the cabinet. It was questioned there by Alberto Costa, who's a Tory MP. He said that I want to do all I can. He defended his remarks in the PMQs last week about teachers being more than when the Tories were in power. He said he's referring really to secondary education, apprentices and like, not for the primary school sector, where there's been a fall in numbers as school rolls have fallen. The most interesting bit, I think, there was about the budget leaks, the leak inquiry ongoing, he says. He said he's removed in the past individuals for leaking in government. We don't know who they are, but he says he's done that. Wasn't challenged on who they were either. He says he will take appropriate action. He said these are intolerable, he said. He wants to stop leaks and deal with the repeated way that information is leaking out from this government, and he says is damaging it. He was reminded there by Mr. Costa that the special advisors are meant to avoid personal attacks, but he said, the PM, he'd been assured by special advisors in Downing Street that the leaks didn't come from number 10. So we started slowly. We're just moving now into these 5 areas of plan for change. That's where I think the government the PM will be held to account over this past year. But looking at the polls, it's been a challenging year for the Prime Minister. He's found governing much harder than being in opposition. That's always the case, though. It's harder doing things, but he hasn't really, I think, set the imagination of the public going. And now, of course, he's looking into the eyes of a 5-day junior resident doctor strike starting this week. A complete disaster for this government. Now, the British Medical Association has told us that more than 4 in 10 of those who took part in a survey by the union, with a turnout of nearly 2/3, they have said they reject the government's offer of more training places. What they want is a pay rise, but that's clearly not going to happen. A real challenge here. We've got the winter flu crisis has been for a long time. It's been brought forward in terms of its severity to before Christmas. This is the last thing so many people need, not least patients who now will find they can't be discharged from hospital because there aren't doctors to do that, and of course other members of the NHS who've got to cover for those striking resident doctors. A complete disaster for so many hundreds of thousands of people, and an embarrassment for this government. They gave a pay rise last year to doctors, more than a 25% pay rise for junior doctors last year. But there wasn't any real strings attached to that. They've come back for more. West Streeting is holding firm, and those who suffer and will be in pain this Christmas are patients.
All right, thank you very much, Christopher Hope. It was interesting actually speaking to Roy Lilly earlier, because he said that it was more the fact that the flu epidemic had come a little bit earlier and not that it would be worse or less. We don't really know, but it came a little bit earlier, and we don't know when it will peak or when it won't. But, you know, I don't think that's a good way for the government to try and sort of almost, in my view, scare tactics to make you think, oh, my goodness, you know, the doctors strike. But I also don't think the doctors should be striking. I think it's shocking.
Well, Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, in his interview was not being perhaps as diplomatic as he could have been, because, of course, eventually he will have to get back around the table with the BMA. But he was essentially saying that, look, all of this stuff is on the table, more training places and things like that. But what isn't on the table, and what the BMA and resident doctors are demanding, is more pay. And Wes Streeting standing very firm on that point.
Well, you know, he's only human. If he gets annoyed by the strikes, I don't blame him. But this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yeah, next we'll be having the latest from Sydney, where more than $1 million has been raised in honour of the man who tackled one of the gunmen during yesterday's terror attack. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update, brought to you from the Met Office. Further rain to come today for Wales and western areas of England. We do have a number of rain warnings in force, but across the north and west, after a pretty wet weekend, it is going to be much drier. That's because the weather front has moved away from the northwest, but it will linger across Wales, southwest England, into northeastern England as well, into this afternoon and this evening. So there are yellow and amber rainfall warnings. We are expecting further disruption, quite a lot of water on the roads, and a risk of flooding too. Further north and west, a much drier day, clear sunny skies actually for Northern Ireland and some areas of western Scotland. Fresher feel here though, temperatures still in single figures. Across the south and east though, ahead of that weather front, another dry day, but there will be a lot of cloud around, and it's going to be quite breezy as well. Now that rain band moves slowly eastwards through this evening. Still a fairly dry evening to come for much of Scotland, though there are a few showers moving into the Western Isles. These come on a fairly brisk breeze as well. Should stay relatively dry for Northern Ireland. We could see some mist and fog developing. It will be a chilly night across these areas as well. The rain moves into parts of the Midlands, more central southern areas of England, still feeling quite heavy as well. So some further disruption. We do still have warnings in force throughout this evening, so there will likely be some travel delays. As it moves into eastern areas of England, though, it will become a slightly weaker feature, but there will be finally some rain here after a dry weekend. And further west, it turns clearer and drier. So much drier night to come for much of Wales, western areas of England. Could see a touch of frost across Northern Ireland and a bit of mist and fog around to start the day on Tuesday. But Tuesday itself is going to be a much more widely pleasant and drier, sunnier day. Now that's away from the far east, where the cloud and rain will still linger. It's a pretty slow moving feature, this weather front, so it does take a while to move out of the far east. And a few showers on a brisk breeze will move into the far northwest. And for all of us, temperatures will widely be in single figures, so a cooler day, but definitely a drier one.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 8 million followers across social media. Thank you for making us a part of your daily life.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M90 Junction 1C off Slip southbound is closed due to an incident. On the M4 between junctions 22 Pilning and 30 Cardiff Gate, speed restrictions apply. In Stockton-on-Tees, a collision on the A19 northbound causes 30-minute delays. Hertfordshire's A1M southbound has one lane closed from a vehicle striking a bridge. In Kent, the M25 anti-clockwise entry slip at junction 1B has one lane closed due to a broken-down vehicle. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and the Elizabeth Line face disruptions due to poor weather. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain, and welcome. If you've just tuned in, welcome aboard. 37 minutes after 2 o'clock, and it is time now for the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, an incredible £85,000. That'll be cash in your bank. Could be fabulous for next year. Here are the details.
It's the greatest cash prize of the Great British Giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Best of luck with that. And let's savour some opposing views on the resident doctor strike. Rosie's got in touch. Hi, Rosie. Totally supports junior doctors. Too few training posts available to advance their careers. The government prepares to import already trained doctors from overseas. No shortage of well-qualified school leaders wishing to study medicine. But again, the government has reduced funding for medical school places. But Darren says the NHS resident doctors' strike is simply militant. No professionals' pay in the private sector has recovered yet since pre-2009 levels following the banking crash and COVID. So, yeah.
And a couple of views on the Prime Minister. Carol said maybe if our Prime Minister spent more time at his desk in our country, he'd be more convincing in his answers. I feel there needs to be more involved in the UK issues and stop evading questions. I think we could all agree with the evasion of questions. That's very annoying.
Well, keep your views coming in, gbnews.com/your say. But the world, once again, continues to be in a state of shock after another terror attack on Jewish people. But among the horrific scenes, we also saw some scenes of heroism.
Yes, because earlier today, the Premier of New South Wales, Chris Mims, posted a picture on social media as he met the fruit shop owner who tackled one of the attackers. Now, it's been revealed that donations to him have now surpassed $1 million.
Well, we're joined by GB News' Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, good afternoon to you. What is the latest from Sydney?
Well, we're getting sort of words of reassurance that have been coming from the Australian government, a vow, they say, to crack down on anti-Semitism and extremism in that country. But there are many within the Jewish community in Australia that feel that actually the government has done anything but crack down on anti-Semitism and vile extremist behaviour for years now, ever since, in fact, October the 7th, when anti-Semitism's always been obviously a problem in Australia, like in many other countries around the world. But after October the 7th and those terrorist attacks in Israel, there were significant issues around anti-Semitism with, according to those that monitor these things, a 700% in anti-Semitism, increase in anti-Semitism in Australia, and claims that the government had done little to stop those who were regularly protesting and chanting vile and criminal sentiments, frankly, against the Jewish community, not just against Israel and the Israeli government. Now, as I say, we've got Anthony Albanese, the PM, Prime Minister in Australia, and other politicians saying they are taking the issue of anti-Semitism seriously. So let's see what happens. It was interesting listening to Sir Keir Starmer at the Liaison Committee in his evidence, saying that he had contacted his Australian counterpart, concerned obviously what's been happening, targeting the Jewish community, given what we've seen here in the UK, particularly at Manchester, and both leaders vowing to ensure that the Jewish community is as safe and secure as they can be.
All right, Mark White, thank you very much for that update. Now, Jews across the country are coming together to mark Hanukkah. GB News' national reporter Will Godley joins us now. Will, where are you and what's happening there?
Well, I'm here in Trafalgar Square, where you can see behind me the big menorah lit up. And the organisers of this event, which is happening tomorrow evening, have told me that despite this horrific attack in Sydney, it's now more important than ever that Jews in Britain and in London come together to celebrate Hanukkah, particularly because of its meaning, and that this symbol behind me, this menorah being lit up, is a powerful symbol, they said, of light overcoming darkness. And earlier on this afternoon, I spoke to Rabbi Mendy Korah, a rabbi in North London who knew one of the people who was killed in this attack, a British-born rabbi, Rabbi Eli Schlanger. They were childhood friends. They've known each other for many, many years. And he said one of the best ways of paying tribute to him and the victims was ensuring that Hanukkah celebrations can continue to go on. But of course, it's happening at a time that is very challenging for British Jews, and many of them today telling us on GB News, but also over previous days and months, how challenging it is to be Jewish in Britain at the moment. Many people saying they don't feel safe and that they feel concerned about being Jewish in Britain. The Metropolitan Police aware of this heightened level of concern that they have said, and that they've said they're introducing a increased police presence at synagogues and other Jewish venues in London to ensure that the Jewish community can continue to celebrate Hanukkah safely.
National reporter Will Godley, thank you very much for joining us. And the time is almost 2:45. This is GB News. Good afternoon, Britain. Here is your travel weather.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's not just the UK that's seeing unsettled conditions at the moment. Many western and central areas of the Mediterranean are also experiencing a mixture of heavy rain, thunderstorms, even some hill snow in locations. Gales pushing their way through the Gibraltar Strait and other coastal regions as well. Some areas may see 100 to 150 millimetres of rain, significantly above their December average. It's eastern areas around Greece and the Balkans that will stay driest, though, if you are heading out at all.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Right, next up, we will have reaction to the shock news that legendary Hollywood actor and director Rob Reiner and his wife have died. Police are treating it as an apparent double homicide.
You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bowl. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things up the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Good Afternoon Britain. The time is 2:49 and a Hollywood murder probe is underway after Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were found dead in their Los Angeles home yesterday.
Now, investigators believe that they sustained stab wounds and a family member is currently being questioned over the details.
Well, we're joined now by GB News' entertainment editor, Alex Davis. Alex, welcome to the studio. What do we know about this case?
Yeah, very little at the moment, as you guys just said. Their bodies were found yesterday, a 78-year-old man and a 68-year-old woman. Obviously led to mounting speculation. It was in the Brentwood area of Los Angeles, a very, very lovely area full of affluent people. And then the family confirmed the sad news yesterday after. It was the LA Fire Department that were initially called out to their home. And then after sort of rumours began to as well, the family came out. But yes, we know there have been no arrests made, and the police actually said yesterday that there was no person of interest either. However, we have learned today that a family member is currently being questioned, and it is believed that it was through stab wounds that the pair perished. However, we don't have an official cause of death. That will be released by the LA Coroner's Office at a later date. Obviously, this is still quite fresh. This has only been, it's less than 24 hours since this horror took place. So there's been no sort of official word on the motive or anything like that.
Well, a lot of people would never have heard of Rob Reiner, but he has actually produced, directed some incredible movies. One of my favourites, Misery.
Misery, yes. And Kathy Bates actually did quite a nice tribute to him herself on social media, because obviously his death has really impacted, and his wife's death as well. She was very prominent as well in the photography world. But, you know, he did Spinal Tap, When Harry Met Sally, all of these massive names. I actually first saw him in The Wolf of Wall Street when he was acting. That was when I first became aware of who Rob Reiner was. Yeah, he acted. He played
father, wasn't he?
Yeah, Jordan Belfort's dad. Jordan Belfort was played by Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah, incredible movie. So, and then you think he's this big presence, booming voice, and then it turns out when you start to look into him a bit more, he had all of these incredible works behind the camera. Like I say, the boss of Misery, he did When Harry Met Sally. He won so many awards. He was adored by many. Eric Idle, John Cusack, James Woods, Ben Stiller, these big names to name a few. Even Barack Obama did a huge tribute to him early today as well. It's a real loss to Hollywood as a whole, and in such horrific circumstances, as we've just explained.
And as you say, Alex, it happened in such an affluent area, and the whole industry is shocked by this news. When are we expecting to hear more from either the police or the coroner's office?
We probably won't hear a lot for a while. I think with something of this magnitude and with so many conflicting reports surrounding it, the LAPD and the coroner's office will want to be certain that what they've got is concrete before anything comes out. So I don't know if we'd be expecting anything concrete today, but I think the LAPD, if the reports get too much, I imagine they'll come out to quash anything. But for now, we've just got to hold tight, because we want them to get it right. We want them to do their jobs. But just going back to the idea of it being from an affluent area, even the likes of Billy Crystal and Larry David, who he worked with, as soon as they heard the news, they were at the scene. They were pictured attending the scene to see for themselves what was going on. Like I say, the online world can be a hotbed of misinformation. And Billy Crystal, who was the Harry in Harry Met Sally, was seen in tears and things like this. It's just truly tragic. And like I said, I'm sure everybody is desperate for answers, but the main thing now is to not speculate and to see what the LAPD and whatnot come out with.
Well, Alex, they can keep right up to date, our viewers, on gbnews.com. Thank you for joining us.
It's really good to talk to you. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure as ever. That's it from us at Good Afternoon Britain. We are back tomorrow at midday.
We certainly are, but first up is your weather. Martin Daubney is next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update, brought to you from the Met Office. Through the rest of today, rain will slowly start to move eastwards, but we do have a number of rain warnings still in force across many northern and western parts of the UK. The rain is as a result of this weather front that's really lingered through much of the weekend and today, and it will slowly start to shift into parts of central England and then eastern England later this evening, but we're still expecting some disruption to travel. There's still an amber warning in force until 9 o'clock this evening. Now, that rain will become a weaker feature as it moves into parts of eastern England, but it does bring a risk of some rain and a lot of cloud overnight across eastern areas. Across the west, though, it finally clears up. Clear skies overnight, a touch of frost across parts of Northern Ireland, but for most of us, just a drier and brighter start to the day. There is a risk of some mist and fog around, particularly over any wet ground we've had recently, but there will be some showers across western areas of Scotland in particular. Some of these could be fairly blustery as well. It's not going to be a particularly warm start to the day. As I said, Northern Ireland could see a touch of frost first thing, but parts of England and Wales seeing temperatures down into the low single figures. Still a lot of cloud around, though, across eastern areas of England, and that could take a little while to clear through Tuesday. But elsewhere, it's going to be a very bright and sunny day, much sunnier than it has been lately, and certainly much drier than it has been too. Any mist and fog should clear relatively quickly. There will be some hazy sunshine around in the afternoon, afternoon, and a few blustery showers across western areas of Scotland too. Temperatures will just reach single figures. There's around average for the time of year, much closer to where we should be. Into Tuesday evening, the rain's still yet to clear the far south and east. It's still a little bit damp here, but behind that, those clear skies continue. There's going to be a more widely colder night on Tuesday. Now, the dry weather won't last long. There's further rain to come on Wednesday. We do have more weather warnings in force, particularly across the southwest. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Excited about this because our most successful female Olympian of all time, Dame Laura Kenny, who also happens to be a Tottenham Hotspur fan, which also makes me extremely happy as well. 5 Olympic gold medals, is with us. Hello, Laura.
Hello, how are you?
I'm really good. Lovely to see you. Listen, did you do of course, with all the medals and you and Jason and everything, did you ever do the actual carrying the torch?
I have never carried an Olympic torch. Nope.
That's the only Olympic thing probably you've never done, and I managed to pick up on it. What was your favourite Olympic? Because there was 3. We've got 2 medals in each. Do you have a favourite? It must be London 2012, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the most obvious one is London, right? I mean, I just think it was, as cliche as it sounds, it was a dream come true.
Oh, and on home turf as well.
It was, yeah. And I mean, I obviously grew up around there, so for me, it was just so special. I had so many people there.
At what point, is there a point though, because I love this with all sports people, and especially when there's all these amazing moments that they go through and when you retire as well, if there was one moment, if there's something or some moment, not even a race, but a part of a race, or is it a moment when you collect your first gold medal or the last one that stays with you more than anything else? What would that be?
I think it was getting the medal, the very first medal. I mean, it was just, I felt like I was living in someone else's life. And really randomly, Paul McCartney was in there and he started singing Hey Jude. And that is like just stuck in my head because thousands of people randomly started singing Hey Jude.
My goodness.
Wow, what a story.
GB News, the People's Channel.
A really important thing about GB News, and it's brought something completely different to the landscape.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, the reality is that most British journalists are afraid. That's not GB News.
Journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
We're here to talk about things in a way that have never been broadcast on British Airways before.
Do not miss a moment on GB News.
The #1 news channel in the country.